My grandmother was a gentle, unassuming old chrysanthemum, while my maternal grandmother was a fiery, street-smart chili pepper. When my parents went away for work and asked who I wanted to stay with, I chose my grandmother, yet this grandmother, as mild as a chrysanthemum, gave all the child support money and nutritional supplements my parents sent for me to my cousin. I cried from hunger, but she just said calmly, "A girl who's always fighting and grabbing for things is so unseemly. A few skipped meals might teach you some manners." When my classmates bullied me, she turned around and punished me by making me kneel in confinement. Flies don't swarm around a seamless egg, it takes two to tango. If you didn't act so improperly, why would others pick on you? In the end, on the eve of the college entrance exams, the bullying drove me to fall from a high building to my death. When I opened my eyes again, I was back on the day my parents asked me who I wanted to live with. This time, I walked toward my grandmother without a moment's hesitation. 1. Can we really trust you with the child? Who knows if you're just trying to funnel money to your second son's kid? Clara is coming with me today, and that's final. My thoughts snapped back to the present. I saw my grandmother standing in front of me, shielding me like a mother hen protecting her chicks. My other grandmother remained perfectly composed. "Such a crude display," she said calmly. "Clara goes where she wants. It's her choice, not yours. If you want to take her, you should at least ask the child." "What do you mean? Ask for his opinion?" "What opinion? Do you really think he'd be better off with you?" Grandma was as fiery and outspoken as ever. Granny remained perfectly calm. "We should still ask the child," she said. It finally hit me. I had been reborn. My grandmother held my hand, her face full of concern. "Clara, tell me," she said. "Who do you want to go with?" My parents had to leave for work in the city and couldn't take me with them, but they wanted to hear my choice. My mother crouched down, stroking my head. "Clara, would you rather stay with Grandma or Granny? Just say it. Whoever makes you happiest is fine." My grandmother was famously fiery-tempered. Her nickname was the Super Spicy Pepper. In my past life, I always found my maternal grandmother quite intimidating. Being around her, I was constantly afraid I'd get a scolding, but later, I came to realize that she was actually the one with a heart of gold. In contrast, my paternal grandmother always carried herself with a serene, unassuming grace. She spoke in soft, gentle tones, as if all the reason in the world was on her side. In my past life, I chose my grandmother without a moment's hesitation. I thought her emotional stability meant she would surely be gentle with me. I also felt my maternal grandmother was too terrifying, petty, calculating, and hysterical. Yet, in the end, I chose a path that led to my doom. It was precisely because Grandma didn't care about anything that I was left to suffer relentless bullying, with nowhere to hide and no one to turn to. Remembering all the hardships from my past life, my eyes welled up. I clenched my fists and looked at my grandmother. "I'm going with Grandma." Grandma looked up, her eyes scanning me as if in disbelief, yet her tone remained flat as she said, "You can't force these things. She can go with whoever she wants." "It's none of my business." "None of your business, huh?" I sneered inwardly. Well, let's see if Grandma can still say she doesn't care in a couple of days when Uncle and his family come to make a scene. In my past life, I chose my grandmother without a second thought. At first, living at her place was fine. She never bothered me. Once I closed my door, I was free to do whatever I wanted. But 3 days later, my uncle's family showed up at our door, and from then on, it was nothing but a nightmare. My aunt said to Grandma, "Mom, I'm truly at my wit's end, but your son has racked up so much debt, we can't pay it off. Since Clara's parents give her such a generous allowance, could you lend us some to tide us over?" With Grandma's serene, unassuming nature, money meant nothing to her. Without a second thought, she handed over all of my child support money to my aunt, but their ambition didn't stop there. "Mom, looking after one more child is no extra trouble if you can raise Clara. You can take Wyatt too. Wyatt is my cousin." Grandma still didn't say no. My cousin was a real actor. He knew Grandma favored well-behaved kids, so he'd put on an innocent, harmless front around her, but behind the scenes, he'd bully me relentlessly. When pushed too far, I'd fight back, but Grandma would always say, "What's with all the yelling and carrying on? A young lady should have some decorum. I should never have taken you in." My cousin knows how to sweet-talk Grandma. He charms her so much that she gives him all the good stuff, even the snacks and nutritional supplements my parents sent for me. I never got to have a single bite. I asked Grandma, "But these were clearly sent for me by Mom and Dad. Why does he get everything? Why can't I have any?" Grandma just shook her head and sighed. "Where on earth did you learn to be so petty and quarrelsome? You're so stingy. You're no granddaughter of mine, too." My cousin had it in for me and led the class in bullying me. He and his friends held me down and dunked my head in a dirty mop bucket, calling it giving me a wash. They'd spit and even urinate in my food, calling it adding a little extra flavor. They'd throw all my textbooks into the latrine, claiming it was to lighten my load. Every time I came home crying, all I got from Grandma was a dismissive remark: "Flies don't land on an uncracked egg, it takes two to tango. If you don't watch your own behavior, how can you blame others for picking on you?" Don't go looking for trouble. After that, she would punish me by making me kneel in a dark room. She called it teaching me a lesson, saying a few skipped meals would help me focus and remember my place. She wanted to make sure I knew exactly how a good girl should behave, but as time went on, the bullying I endured only grew worse. Some of them even turned into monsters. On the eve of the college entrance exam, they cornered me in an abandoned building behind the school, forced me to undress, and filmed it all with their phones. I couldn't take it anymore and fought back, but they pushed me off the building, and I fell to my death. Yet my cousin claimed I had depression and insisted it was a suicide. Upon hearing the news of my death, my parents were utterly heartbroken and wept uncontrollably. My uncle and aunt were guilt-ridden and terrified. Only my grandmother remained calm, looking at my lifeless body and remarking, "This child's mental fortitude was so weak, just a few harsh words, and she chose to jump to her death. How utterly disappointing. Couldn't she have looked within herself for the reason I died with my eyes wide open?" Unable to rest in peace, thankfully, fate gave me another chance. Seeing that I had chosen my grandmother, my father said to my grandmother, "Mom, I'll trouble you with this then. I'll transfer Clara's living expenses and tuition to you and send her things regularly. Suit yourselves. If you give it, I'll take it. It'll help improve my Clara's life. I'm taking care of Clara because I feel for the poor child. Not like some people who pretend not to care, but are secretly pining away." Grandma was laying on the sarcasm thick. She really doesn't hold back her temper at all. I was such a fool in my past life. I never saw through it. Grandma might be tough on the outside, but she has the softest heart. She dotes on the kids more than anyone. After I died, she was the one who raised hell and made sure the whole world knew about it. The old lady went all out, pestering the police, the school, making a huge scene, demanding a full investigation. In the end, the truth came out. Justice was finally served for me. The day the investigation results were announced and the villains were arrested, Dad cut ties with Grandma, and he and Mom held my portrait, weeping uncontrollably. But my maternal grandmother stormed over to Grandma's house and slapped the old woman's face repeatedly, crying as she hit her, "Is this how you took care of my Clara? Your negligence killed her." My thoughts returned to the present, looking at my grandmother now. I took her hand and said in a childish voice, "Grandma, let's go home." Like a victor, Grandma held my hand, her face beaming with pride. "Grandma will give you the best life and dress our Clara up like a little princess." Tears welled up in my eyes all at once. It's been so long since I've felt any warmth or kindness. Even the simple life of an ordinary child was never mine to have. "Oh, sweetheart, why the tears? Are you hungry? Grandma will make you some braised pork belly today." Her face was a map of wrinkles, and for once, the usually fierce expression softened into one of genuine tenderness. I nodded eagerly. Ever since my parents passed away in my past life, it had been so long since I'd tasted meat. Back then, Grandma always said it wasn't good for a girl to eat so much meat. Vegetables were for cleansing the stomach, and if I was picky, I wouldn't even get those. My cousin would use the pocket money he sweet-talked out of people to treat himself every day, eating meat and snacks outside just to taunt me. At home, Grandma would even give him the nutritional supplements my parents had bought for me. I was so envious I cried, but Grandma just said, "All you do is cry, crying over food. How pathetic, what a disgraceful granddaughter you are." She would even make me kneel in the dark room without dinner, calling it a lesson to teach me a thing or two. After saying goodbye to Mom and Dad, I went home with Grandma, true to her word. She made me a huge pot of braised pork belly. Seeing the heaping bowl of meat, I scooped a bowl of rice and started wolfing it down. I choked and started coughing. Grandma quickly brought a glass of water, patted my back, and smiled. "You silly girl, you're acting like you haven't eaten in 800 years. Slow down, it's all yours, don't choke." She said it with the same tone, but Grandma's face was full of adoration. If it had been my other grandmother, she would have looked utterly disgusted. "If you like it, I'll make it for you every day." Goodness, child, anyone would think you never get a decent meal at home, that your parents are starving you. Grandma has always been one to speak her mind. I shook my head. "No, it's just that your cooking is so delicious. I couldn't help myself. It's good to have a healthy appetite, but don't overdo it. Even the tastiest food is best in moderation. I'll make it for you again tomorrow. I'm truly content. In this lifetime, I've finally found happiness, but this peace didn't last long before trouble came knocking. The world is never short of the discontent. My aunt stormed in, a picture of pure fury. "Where is everyone? Where have they all gone?" Before I could even settle the score with them, my aunt had the nerve to show up at my door. Talk about shameless. Grandma stepped outside, shielding me behind her. "What are you doing here?" "I'm here to take back the child of our Lou family." "The child's a Lou, what's it got to do with you? I was only gone for a couple of days. How did Clara end up leaving with you? She wasn't here for the child at all. She was clearly after the money." "What do you mean? A child of the Lou family? You're nothing but an outsider. What gives you the right to come to our house? You'd better get out. You're not welcome here." Grandma was a woman of strong principles, and she detested nothing more than the aunt's hypocritical facade. The aunt rolled up her sleeves, planted her hands on her hips, and pointed at Grandma. "How dare you speak to me like that, you old hag? Fine, if the girl Clara won't come with me, that's one thing, but the living expenses my brother gives you, you have to split that with us." Grandma, who was quite fond of money herself, was immediately displeased to hear this. "You've got some nerve. Who do you think you are, demanding half my money? Get out of my house and stop causing a scene, or I'll make you leave." The aunt grew even more belligerent. "Hit me, go on then, I'd like to see you try." As she spoke, she provocatively leaned her face in closer. By now, a crowd had gathered in the rural courtyard, with many people recording the scene on their phones. Grandma had a fiery temper and a stern face, but a kind heart. Half the village disliked her, while the other half got along with her just fine. The ones who couldn't stand Grandma were the very ones who came to gawk at the spectacle. Grandma grabbed a broom and swung it straight at the auntie. The auntie stumbled back in fright, losing her footing and tumbling to the ground. "Ow, the old woman is hitting me. I'm calling the police. Is there no law and order anymore?" "But I saw it." Auntie was just scared. She dodged and tripped over her own feet. I stepped forward. "Stop pretending. Grandma never even touched you. You'd better get out of here." Seeing that I was also taking Grandma's side, Auntie became even more unreasonable and started making a scene. "Where's the justice in this? I'm so unlucky. I get beaten up and then falsely accused on top of it. I can't go on like this." The aunt's shameless act finally succeeded in getting the police's attention. "Officer, is there no law and order anymore? I'm the child's aunt. I was just here to pick her up, and she attacked me. My chest hurts. My backside hurts." The police officer was at a loss for words. I tried to negotiate with my aunt about going to the hospital for a checkup. My aunt wasn't having it. "Checkup? Forget it. Just have her pay me 8,000 yuan, and we'll call it even. My parents only give me 10,000 for living expenses, and she's asking for the moon right off the bat. Compensation isn't just handed out arbitrarily. We need to get an injury assessment done first." My aunt started her usual tantrum again. "I don't care. I'm not going to the hospital. This old hag hit me. I'm not settling this for a penny less than 8,000 today." Grandma had a short fuse too. 8,000. I won't give you a single cent. Go ahead and sue me if you want. Now get lost. And stop making a scene at my place. 3. The situation quickly descended into chaos. The police soon realized it was a family matter. "You'll have to sort out your family issues yourselves. There's nothing we can do." And with that, they left. Seeing that her plan wasn't working, my aunt simply lay down on the ground and refused to move, putting on a dramatic, life-or-death performance. Grandma was absolutely furious, and I kept trying to calm her down. "Clara, go inside. You don't need to handle this. Grandma will take care of it." I refused. I stayed right there with Grandma, locked in a stalemate with my aunt outside. Finally, after waiting so long that everyone else had left and she was on the verge of heatstroke, Auntie had no choice but to let the matter drop. Before leaving, Auntie threatened, "Just you wait. I recorded everything today. You won't get away with this." With Auntie gone, peace finally returned. But I know my aunt all too well. Her character is utterly despicable. She's always been a greedy, shameless person, and she won't let this go until she gets what she wants. I'm afraid she'll only become more extreme from here on out. Sure enough, within a couple of days, our family became the talk of the village. Anyone passing by our house would point and gossip. "Isn't that the family from the internet? The ones who throw their weight around, especially that old woman. She's so nasty and rude." When I got home and looked into it, I found out it was my aunt spreading rumors online, claiming my grandmother had hit someone and refused to take responsibility, and that she was now seriously injured with nowhere to turn for justice. Grandma instantly became the target of everyone's criticism. Grandma was being gossiped about and judged by everyone in the village, so of course she was in a bad mood. But when she saw me, she still put on her lecturing face. "You're just a kid. Don't worry about these things. Focus on your studies and let Grandma handle the rest. Grandma is getting on in years. She can't even figure out how to use a cell phone." Perhaps she herself didn't even know why the whole village had turned against her. Watching my grandmother's aged back, I couldn't help but feel my eyes well up. "We absolutely cannot let my aunt's family get away with such arrogance," I said to my grandmother. "My aunt's family did this on purpose. I'm going over there to demand an explanation. What business is it of a child? Just stay home and be quiet." But I couldn't just stand by and let my aunt's family bully us like that. I had already made up my mind. The next day, my grandmother thought I was going to school, but I secretly took a day off for myself. My first stop was the house of the person in the village who had been recording that day. I was hoping to get the footage that could clear my grandmother's name. After I found it, I headed over to my aunt's house. When I got there, I didn't see my aunt, so I went back out to look for her. I saw her outside playing ball with my younger cousin. Suddenly, a stray ball flew over and hit my cousin on the head, causing him to lose his balance and fall down. The auntie cried out in alarm, "Hey, who do you think you are? You hit my kid. Are you blind? My Wyatt is about to take the exams for Tsinghua or Peking University. If some careless fool has damaged his brain, could you even afford to pay for it?" One of the parents hurried over with their child, apologizing profusely. "I'm so sorry. So sorry, the kid got a bit carried away. Is everything all right? Are you hurt?" The aunt was relentless. "Of course there's a problem. You knocked our child over. What do you think? What if your little collision causes some serious injury?" The other parent was at a loss for words. Normally, a simple apology would have been enough. I'd never seen someone so unwilling to let it go. My cousin was about to say it was fine, but his mother shot him a look to shut him up. "So, how would you like to resolve this?" My aunt covered my cousin's head with her hand. "My son is so bright. He needs to see a doctor. You scared him, so you should pay for some nutritional supplements, and for emotional distress, 10,000 yuan should cover it." The other parent was stunned. Wasn't this just a shameless, outrageous demand? I hadn't expected it either. My aunt really has no fear, no matter the situation. And shaking people down comes so easily to her. "You should take your child to the hospital first to see if he's hurt. Pay for the damages first. Our Wyatt is college material. What if you've damaged him? This won't be settled without compensation." This parent had never encountered such a blatant shakedown before and had no choice but to call the police. But the aunt wasn't fazed. She acted completely justified, convinced she was owed every penny. Even the police were speechless after hearing the story. It's rare to see someone with such nerve. Now that the police are here, I can finally go over. "Officer, I want to report her for making false accusations and spreading rumors." 5. She came to our house to make a scene, falsely accused my grandmother, and then, not content with being in the wrong herself, she spread rumors online, causing our family a great deal of distress. The police didn't expect a high school student like me to have the courage to step forward. The matter was quite complicated, so the police had no choice but to take us all back to the station for questioning. My aunt was quite taken aback when she saw me. She immediately rolled up her sleeves, ready for a fight. "You little brat, I'm your own aunt, and this is how you treat me. I ought to teach you a lesson on behalf of your parents." She was about to strike, but the uncles held her back. "What do you think you're doing? We're right here. You think you can just assault someone in broad daylight? You're all coming with us." I went to the police station and laid out all the evidence. "Uncle, look, my grandmother never even touched her. She's just faking it for a scam. Now my grandma is being falsely accused, and she's so upset she's fallen ill." That parent also took their child to the hospital for a checkup, and they found absolutely nothing wrong. It was all my aunt making a mountain out of a molehill. The parent wouldn't let it go either. She demanded 10,000 right off the bat. Doesn't that count as attempted extortion? My aunt was left speechless, with no way to defend herself. The officer, clearly unimpressed with her, proceeded with a stern expression. "Ma'am, you are suspected of extortion, slander, and spreading false rumors. We are placing you under detention for investigation." My aunt was instantly dumbstruck. She wailed and cried, but that act was useless in front of the police. I immediately posted a video online to clarify the situation and speak up for my grandmother. Grandma's name was finally cleared. Many villagers who had once pointed fingers at her came by to pay their respects, and the house was bustling with activity. But folks in the village are proud. It's hard for them to utter a direct apology. So they used these social visits as a roundabout way to say they were sorry. Grandma didn't know what had happened, but seeing the triumphant look on my face, she knew I was behind it. With a mix of exasperation and affection, she said, "You silly child, acting so recklessly. What if you'd hurt yourself? Your only job right now is to focus on your studies." I was no slouch academically in my past life, and with that solid foundation, I could only soar even higher. I'm in no rush about the schoolwork, but as for my payback against my uncle and aunt's family, this is just the opening move. As for grandma, I was sure that with something this big happening to auntie, uncle wouldn't just sit idly by. Sure enough, before long, uncle stormed over to grandma's house with my grandmother in tow, acting as if he wanted to tear me and grandma limb from limb. "Clara, we're family. She's still your aunt. After all, how could you do something so utterly disgraceful?" My grandmother shielded me behind her. "If you have a problem, you deal with me. Don't you dare frighten my child." Grandma shot me a glare and said with measured scorn, "Just as I thought, an ungrateful wretch we raised in the Liu family, to be so heartless to your own aunt. Is there anything you wouldn't stoop to?" My cousin also rushed forward, ready to hit me. "It was you, you little brat. You did this, you little wretch. Give me back my mother. This family is really being utterly unreasonable." Grandma, unable to control the situation, simply picked up the hoe from outside. Seeing this, the uncle said, "What, you want to hit someone? Let me tell you, this is a society governed by law. If you hurt any one of us, I will never forgive you." I shielded my grandmother behind me. "That's not what happened. It's auntie who's insatiably greedy." She made an outrageous demand, trying to swindle all the living expenses my parents sent. and even falsely accused Grandma of hitting her. My uncle pointed at me. You ungrateful little brat, I can barely afford to eat. What's the problem with asking you for a bit of money? Besides, that money came from my brother in the first place. It's only fair I get half. Well, aren't you something? You actually had my aunt thrown in jail. They really are cut from the same cloth. How else could they all be so shameless? That's my living allowance from Mom and Dad. What gives you the right to take it? Just because I'm your uncle, you should show me some respect. Grandma was furious. She grabbed something and pointed it at the whole family. Get lost, now, or I won't hold back. If the police get called, it'll be your fault for starting this. Granny stood to the side, frowning and looking down on us. All this bickering is so undignified. Clara would only suffer if she stayed with you. She'd be better off coming with me. 6. Even though Grandma liked to present herself as someone with simple, quiet tastes, it was obvious to anyone with half a brain that she favored my uncle. Given what happened last time, there's no way I'm going with her. She shook her head firmly. No, I'm staying with Grandma. Seeing that they refused to leave, Grandma showed no mercy and picked up a broom to shoo them out, having learned her lesson from last time. Grandma didn't actually strike them, she just made a show of it, prodding and pushing them a few times with the broom. Being such a respectable woman, Grandma, paternal, was furious at being treated this way. Is this how you treat guests in this house? What kind of family has my son gotten himself into? If the mother is like this, I can only imagine the daughter. None of you have any class. That's just how Grandma is. You can say whatever you want about her, but you absolutely cannot say a word against her daughter. Furious, Grandma grabbed a broom and raised it to strike. Get out, all of you, get out, I don't want to see any of you. As the broom was about to come down on her, even the normally dignified grandmother-in-law couldn't help but panic, instinctively trying to dodge. But Uncle caught the broom in midair. You stubborn old woman, you refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. With that, he snatched the broom right out of my hands. Grandma quickly shielded me behind her. My cousin had already made himself scarce. My uncle was so strong he could have thrown both of us across the room. I seized the moment and threw myself in front of Grandma. My uncle's fist connected with my face, the pain so sharp it sent cold sweat pouring down my back. The blow made my head ring and my vision swim, blood from my nose spattering all over the floor. Grandma was scared out of her wits. She rushed to hold me, crying out, "Clara, are you all right? Clara." My uncle was stunned. What's this? Are you trying to fake an injury, kid?" I barely used any force at all. Trembling and weak, I managed to gasp out a single word: "Call the police." The hospital confirmed it's a mild concussion, not a disability. My uncle also breathed a sigh of relief. "You're the one who rushed in, kid. What business does a child have getting involved in adult matters?" But since it involved assaulting a minor, the police still got involved, seeing it was a family matter. The police really didn't want to deal with it, but Grandma wouldn't let it go. "What do you mean, even if it's a family matter? Does hitting a child not count as domestic violence? And hitting your own brother's child at that? Isn't this just bullying us because there's no one else in the house, taking advantage of us being old and the child being young?" Granny chimed in with a snide remark from the side. "You are the one who chased us out with a broom first. That's what led to this accident. For a child to have a grandmother like you is truly disgraceful." She spoke in a refined, roundabout way, but Grandma was hot-tempered and couldn't stand to hear such talk. "You come to our house demanding money for no reason, and then have the nerve to say we're not respectable enough. The fact that I only chased you out was me being more than civil. I don't care about your excuses. You hurt the child, and you need to be held accountable. Whether it's paying compensation or facing detention, you must give us a resolution." Although Grandma was a tough, street-smart woman, she wasn't greedy. Her demand for Uncle to pay up was simply to make his family feel the pinch. After all, that family worshipped money above all else. If they weren't made to pay dearly this time, they'd have the nerve to come bullying us again. My uncle refused immediately and was so angry he almost got physical. If the police hadn't been there to stop him, it would have been my grandmother who got hurt. 7. Even an upright official finds it hard to settle a family quarrel. This is our family matter, so please let us go home and sort it out ourselves. My uncle smiled, trying to ingratiate himself with the police. "Officer, look, he's acting this brazenly right in front of you. Can you imagine what he's like when you're not around?" I said with an innocent look on my face, playing the part of the victim perfectly. The officer was furious but powerless to do anything. "The whole situation is a real headache, and I have no idea what to do next. The police rarely encountered such a difficult family. I'm just a kid, and I have exams to take. Are we really just going to let this go?" Grandma was right. Either they pay up, or I left the rest of my sentence hanging. But after I said that, my grandmother and cousin were visibly taken aback. After all, if both of his parents have been detained, it would really hurt my cousin's future prospects. My uncle glared at me, his jaw clenched, his eyes full of menace. "Clara, don't go that far. How do you think this will look to your father, you treating your uncle like this?" I decided to fight back. "If Dad knew you were bullying me, He'd be furious too. Uncle was mortified and could only look to Grandma for help. Grandma sighed. Clara, you shouldn't be so petty. It's just a minor concussion, nothing serious. Framing your uncle like this is so shallow and disgraceful to the Liu family. I didn't want to deal with them anymore. I took Grandma's arm and said, let them be detained. Let's go, Grandma. Grandma wasn't about to let them off the hook either. The police are right here. Either you pay up today or you take responsibility. You think you can just hurt our Clara and walk away? The situation had reached a stalemate. Just as the atmosphere was becoming unbearably awkward, my parents suddenly burst in. Clara, what happened to Clara? My mother shielded my head with a worried look, then turned her gaze to my uncle. Clara is just a child. How could you, her uncle, treat her like that? She's so young and still in school. What if you'd hurt her head? The more my mother looked at me, the more her heart ached. And she finally lunged at my uncle, trying to scratch him. My father quickly stepped in to hold my mother back. My mom was absolutely furious. What do you think you're doing? Are you just going to stand there and let Clara be bullied like that? She's still in high school. Do you have any idea how serious a mild concussion can be at her age? Everyone fell silent after Mom's outburst. Grandma shot us a glance, like mother, like daughter. I can see the whole family's got that sure streak. Absolutely no class at all. My mom was instantly displeased. If it weren't for my dad stepping in, she would have lost her temper right then and there. Aren't you going to do something about this? My mom looked at my dad, her expression tinged with disappointment. My dad looked at me with heartache, then turned to my uncle and said helplessly, you've really gone too far this time. But what's the use of dad saying that? Uncle wouldn't care in the slightest. Brother, you're just in time. This girl actually wants to sue me. My dad is famously easygoing, good-tempered and kind-natured. He gets half of that from Grandma. I know he'll definitely agree to just let it go. So I just shut my eyes, let myself fall backwards, and pretended to faint. Clara, lying in my mother's arms. I hadn't felt such warmth in a long, long time. I ended up back in the hospital. The doctor said it was likely a post-concussion symptom, causing dizziness and nausea. Mom was instantly alarmed and confronted Dad. Aren't you going to say something? Are you just going to stand by and watch our daughter be treated like this? Grandma chimed in. Young people these days make such a fuss. Could she be faking it? It's just a mild concussion, Mom. If it were Wyatt who got hurt today, would you still be so calm about it? There's no room for negotiation on this. I passed out. It's either compensation or taking responsibility. No one gets to sweep this under the rug. Even though she was unwilling, Grandma had no choice but to accept it. My uncle paid a sum of money. As he was leaving the hospital, he said, just you wait, I'll chalk this loss up to bad luck on my part. My uncle only took $3,000, but that was already his absolute limit. Before leaving, my cousin shot me a look and said, you've ruined my parents. I won't let you get away with this. Am I afraid of him, after living 2 lifetimes? If I could still be threatened by someone like him, then I might as well not have lived at all. Besides, in my past life, I did nothing wrong, yet my cousin and his gang of thugs still drove me to jump from that building. Did anyone ever cry out for justice on my behalf? 8. After recuperating for a while and returning to school, I found that everyone in my class was giving me the cold shoulder. A few girls even cornered me in the bathroom after class. So you're Clara. Someone says you're being difficult and told us to teach you a lesson. We hear you're quite good at lying and faking sick. The moment I heard faking sick, I knew exactly who that someone was. What do you want? The girls closed in, backing me into a corner. What are we doing? You're clearly very sick, so we're here to cure you. I knew there was no way I could hold my own against them. Director Wine. The girls instinctively glanced back, and I seized the moment to dash out. Running straight back to the classroom, these girls were notorious bullies at school, and I wasn't the only one they had targeted. With memories from a past life, I was determined to catch them in the act. Even though no one paid me any attention at school that day, I didn't care. My only concern now was my studies. When I got home, Mom gently touched my head and asked with concern, "How are you feeling, Clara? Are you feeling unwell anywhere today, because of my injury?" Both Dad and Mom didn't return to work. Instead, they chose to stay and keep me company for a while. I shook my head. You've got some nerve, you little brat. How dare you sue your uncle and try to swindle money from us? Get out here right now. You're asking for a good thrashing. I'd recognize that voice from a mile away. It's Auntie. I didn't expect her to be released so soon. Auntie stood with her hands on her hips. No matter what, you'd better cough up that money today, and we'll call it even. Otherwise what? My mother and grandmother shielded me behind them. If you have a problem, take it up with us, they said. Why are you yelling at a child? My mom and my aunt have never gotten along. Knowing that my aunt had been bullying me these past few days made her even angrier. If it weren't for my dad playing the peacemaker in the middle, constantly urging my mom to hold back, she would have stepped forward and thrown a punch right then. The two of them almost came to blows, fearing my mom would be bullied. I stepped in front of her. "You dare hit me." My aunt was still somewhat wary, having just paid out a hefty sum. 9. Fuming, my aunt had no choice but to let it go. She suddenly received a call. "What? You're saying my old man is in trouble? He's been taken away." As soon as my dad heard his brother was in trouble, his first concern was, "What happened? Big brother, second brother's been arrested. It seems it's over a debt. Big brother, you've got to think of something. Quick." My aunt instantly became fragile, tears welling up in her eyes. My mother looked at her with a mixture of skepticism and doubt. "Stop pretending. You were all fierce and threatening a moment ago. And now you're playing the victim. I'm telling you, our family has no money. Don't even think about getting a single cent from us." My aunt, who had a short temper, shouted agitatedly, "I did no such thing. Second brother owes money, and you're still trying to swindle him out of more. What are you really after? Are you trying to drive our family to ruin?" I knew my aunt was telling the truth. In my past life, all my money was swindled away, all to pay off my uncle's debts. He's a gambler, and a serious one at that, with a mountain of debt. My aunt has been running around scamming people for money, all to pay off my uncle's gambling debts. My uncle has a terrible temper. If he doesn't get the money, he beats my aunt, but I don't feel an ounce of pity for her. My aunt has no right to inflict her own suffering onto others. We went to my grandmother's house to discuss it. When my parents heard the full story, their faces went ashen. "So the only reason you've been trying to get custody of Clara is for the child support money?" My mother looked at me with pity in her eyes. I felt nothing. I'd been through all this in a past life, so I understood it all too well. "You're absolute monsters." My aunt showed not a shred of remorse. On the contrary, she acted as if it were only right and proper. "Big brother, second brother is your own flesh and blood. You're the only one who can help him now. If you don't, it would be a betrayal of both family and duty." My father was in a difficult spot, unsure of what to do. He could only look helplessly at my mother. "Are you planning to help them?" After being questioned by my mom, my dad didn't dare make a move either. After all, he's my brother. I can't just stand by and watch him get into trouble. My mom also issued an ultimatum. "If you dare help them, we're getting a divorce, and Clara comes with me." My dad hesitated. He genuinely didn't dare, but he also had no idea what to do. Grandma spoke up, immediately launching into a sarcastic attack on my mom. "Fighting over a bit of money is so undignified. Your family really does have that same sure streak. How did our family ever end up marrying a daughter-in-law like you? Dignified, and it's dignified for your son to rack up a mountain of debt and leave others to pay it off." My mom had long since had enough. I took my mom's arm, patting her chest soothingly. She grabbed my arm and pulled me away. "No point arguing with them. The bank cards and money are all with me. If he dares take a single cent, we're getting a divorce. That's it." My dad had no choice but to follow my mom's lead. Seeing how things were going, my aunt quickly turned to my grandmother. "Mom, aren't you going to do something about this?" My grandmother, always the picture of serene composure, remained unruffled. "This is indeed your second son's fault. He should learn his lesson. Besides, the money isn't with me. What exactly am I supposed to do?" 10. We went back home. But my aunt was relentless, waiting for us right outside the door. At first, she was out there shouting accusations, saying we had abandoned her in her time of need, and even went live online to publicly denounce us. It quickly stirred up a minor online controversy, putting our family in an impossible position. We had no choice but to call the police and report her for harassment. The police took them away and issued a warning. Finally, there's peace and quiet outside our door. After days of effort, my covert surveillance of those bullies from my past life finally paid off. I recorded several videos of them bullying the vulnerable and sent them anonymously to the principal, the dean, the education bureau, and posted them online. Things blew up. Furious, the principal immediately called a school-wide assembly. He emphasized a zero-tolerance policy towards bullying, vowing to thoroughly investigate the individuals in the videos if wrongdoing is found. He promised to involve the police or expel them without hesitation. The investigation revealed that the bullying group had actually driven a fellow student to suicide. However, the student's suicide had many contributing factors, and the bullying group was quick to absolve themselves of all responsibility, and the mastermind behind this group turned out to be my cousin. Who would have thought he'd quietly become the school bully when the investigation results came out? The principal was furious and immediately moved to expel all those involved, including my cousin. My aunt found out and came to the school to make a scene. "What right do you have to expel my son? He's about to take the college entrance exams. He's got what it takes to get into Tsinghua or Peking University. What you're doing is illegal." The principal's face darkened. "We are well aware of your child's academic performance, regardless of where they could test into. We do not keep students with poor character. My child has poor character. You, as the principal, are responsible for your words. I've recorded all of this. If you're going to say that, I'll let the public judge for themselves. The principal rarely encountered such a troublesome parent. The apple certainly doesn't fall far from the tree. The principal had no choice but to show the aunt the surveillance footage as evidence of him bullying classmates. Her face darkened after watching it. That was just a joke between classmates. Besides, my Wyatt didn't do anything that crossed the line. The person is still perfectly fine, aren't they? I don't wish to debate this with you, parent. Your child is not a good fit for our school. We admit students who excel in both character and academics. The principal was blunt. There was nothing the aunt could do in her anger. In the end, they were escorted out by security. And even as they left, they defiantly shouted and yelled outside. I had just reached the school gate when my aunt spotted me. You little wretch, you're like a bad penny that always turns up. I know it was you. It had to be you. I just shrugged and shot her a defiant look. It didn't matter. I had already called the police. So her gloating wouldn't last long. Sure enough, it wasn't long before my aunt was taken away. Good afternoon, ma'am. You are suspected of involvement in a theft case. Please cooperate with the investigation. To pay off debts, my aunt had recently been lurking in the most crowded places, picking pockets. She did it so often that she eventually hit a big score. The amount was significant, and the police were onto her quickly. As she was taken away, I watched with satisfaction. That was the punishment she deserved. As for my uncle, he owed money and was beaten within an inch of his life. He came back begging for money, prostrating himself at my father's feet. Bro, I'm begging you, please help me. These people are going to be the death of me. My father looked hesitantly at my mother, but her stance was crystal clear. If he helped their family, it meant divorce. Dad didn't dare make a move. All he could say was, "Second brother, you brought all of this on yourself. You have to accept it." My uncle, unwilling to accept this, lunged forward to hit my mother. "You wicked woman, it's all your fault for driving a wedge between us brothers." However, the loan shark soon came back, asking if we had the money, threatening to take a kidney as payment if we didn't. Our family never made a statement, insisting that my uncle had nothing to do with us. In the end, my uncle was taken away. After the bullying ring led by my cousin was disbanded, quite a few of its members ended up doing time. My cousin, who had been expelled, was also locked up for the better part of a year. After his release, he idled about with no purpose, having to crash at our grandmother's place, but her household had long been drained dry by their reckless spending. Frustrated and throwing tantrums for snacks and fancy meals, my cousin found that grandma's finances couldn't keep up. Too proud to swallow her pride and ask our family for help, she was left to shoulder the burden alone, grinding away at menial labor. My grandmother had lived her whole life with quiet composure, but for the first time, she had to go out and do hard labor just to survive. When I saw her then, I was a bit taken aback. Grandma, she seemed to have aged, carrying a new weariness. She didn't say much when she saw me, just kept on with her work. My mother put her arm around me and said it was okay. Everyone has their own path in life. Let's go. I nodded. In the end, I got into my dream university and cut off all contact with my uncle's family. I heard that after my aunt served her sentence, she had become completely unhinged and mentally unsound. She eventually ran away from home, and no one ever saw her again. My uncle, missing a kidney and with a broken leg, was largely immobile and ended up living at home, dependent on his parents. My cousin is also at home, living off his parents. Grandma was completely worn out and ended up collapsing in the hospital, but without money, they couldn't keep her there. In the end, it was Dad who paid the fees. My mom, seeing how pitiful Grandma was, didn't make an issue of it with him. Dad pleaded, "They're still my family. After all, I won't get involved in their day-to-day lives anymore, but I can't just stand by and do nothing when my own mother is sick." Mom didn't say a word, and neither did I. Seeing them in such a miserable state made me feel a lot better. Even with the medical expenses covered, Grandma ultimately didn't make it and passed away soon after. As for my uncle, he came asking for money time and again, but my mother kept a tight rein and didn't give him a single cent. Back then, I had already been accepted into Tsinghua University. After graduation, I landed a great job, made good money, and was able to support my family. We often went to visit my grandmother. I had originally planned to bring my grandmother to the city to live out her retirement, but she said she couldn't get used to life in the big city, so we didn't press the matter. All we could do was slip her more money and bring back useful appliances and tasty snacks to show our filial respect. This time, I had a truly pleasant and relaxing stay. Story 2. My college semester started right around my 18th birthday. My roommate Belle gave me 3 $10 scratch-off lottery tickets. She said with a laugh, Typical gifts are so boring. Scratch-offs are exciting. Who knows, you might even win $1 million. The other roommates weren't thrilled. They'd spent money on gifts only to be called boring. I shot back immediately. First time seeing someone this stingy and still making excuses for themselves. If Callista really scratched off $1 million, you'd definitely snatch it back. Belle snapped. I'd never take back a gift once given. No wonder you gave Callista a Bluetooth headset, just waiting to get it back on your birthday. Seeing the argument heating up, I quickly stepped in with a smile. If we scratch $1 million, I'll treat everyone to an overseas trip, my treat for all. Despite a minor hiccup, the birthday celebration wrapped up smoothly. I thought that would be the end of it, but just as I received my coming-of-age gift from my parents, Belle stormed in. How dare you, Callista, you used my lottery ticket to buy a car. Give me back my $1 million. I explained that those 3 lottery tickets didn't win anything, but Belle didn't believe me. I saw with my own eyes you went to the lottery shop to cash them in. I have the payment records. You stole those tickets from my bag. I'm a student from a poor family, with sick parents to take care of. That $1 million was my only hope. You're trying to kill me by keeping that money for yourself. The bystanders, who had no idea what was really going on, also urged me to hand over the money immediately. I tried every possible way to explain myself, but Belle suddenly went berserk and shoved me into the street. I was hit and killed by a speeding car. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the day Belle gave me the lottery tickets. Callista, I handpicked these 3 lottery tickets for you with all my luck, way more thoughtful than those tacky gifts from everyone else. Watching Belle's calculating gaze, I let out a cold laugh inside. So she had already started scheming from this very moment. As soon as Belle finished speaking, her roommate Joyce chimed in disapprovingly. Belle, what exactly do you mean by that? So you're saying the gift we spent over $300 on isn't as thoughtful as your $30 lottery ticket? You claim you picked this gift for Callista based on luck, then go ahead and scratch it off right now. Callista's treating everyone to a meal that costs $200 per person today. Let's see if your good luck can scratch up $200. Belle's face instantly flushed crimson, and she shot me a pleading look. Ever since I found out Belle came from a poor family, I've always done whatever I could to help her out whenever she ran into trouble in my past life, even though I knew full well that Belle's words had started the whole mess. I figured it was my birthday after all, so I quickly stepped in to smooth things over when Joyce confronted Belle, and I didn't scratch off the lottery ticket in front of everyone. Little did I know this would mark the beginning of Belle framing me. I slowly raised my eyes to meet Belle's tear-filled gaze and smiled faintly. I trust Belle's luck. If you don't believe me, let's scratch it open right now. Belle looked at me in astonishment. She seemed taken aback that not only did I not cover for her, but I even suggested scratching the lottery ticket in front of everyone. She snatched the scratch card from my hand and met my puzzled gaze with an awkward smile. Callista, scratching lottery tickets should be mysterious. It ruins half the fun otherwise. Let's eat first. I smiled back at Belle, mirroring her grin. It's way more fun when we scratch the tickets together and win, no matter how much we win. We're splitting it equally today. Hearing this, my roommates instantly got excited. Even though we all knew the odds of winning were low, everyone grew curious about whether we'd actually scratch out some cash. Hurry up and bring out the scratch cards. Let's finish this and grab some food. After Joyce spoke, all eyes turned to Belle. Her expression stiffened slightly as she immediately retorted, "How could that possibly work, Callista? This is my birthday gift to you. Even if you don't think much of me, you can't just give the gift away, and how come you don't understand my good intentions? I'm stopping you from scratching it here for your own good. If you really won $1 million, someone would definitely get jealous." She glanced at the other roommates and said pointedly, "These days, stealing winning lottery tickets is all too common. Are you out of your mind, Belle? Even if the lottery ticket you gave us could win money, which is doubtful, this whole room is under surveillance. How could we possibly steal it?" Joyce couldn't hold back her anger and lashed out. The others chimed in, "We're all roommates here, Belle. Is that really what you think of us, Callista? Since Belle's saying things like that, you should just scratch it open right now. Let's see if it wins and whether anyone would actually try to steal it." Belle added, "Callista, I actually did the math on this scratch card. The only way to hit the jackpot is to scratch it alone at 9 p.m. I only stopped you for your own good." Joyce couldn't help but laugh out loud. "Belle, who are you trying to fool? If you really had that kind of power, would you even be in school? You'd be rolling in cash by now. You don't have to believe me, but you can't insult me," Belle shouted at Joyce. She whispered in my ear again, "You know I'm on financial aid, Callista. If you scratch it in front of everyone and it's not a winner, I'll be so embarrassed. Do me this favor. I don't want them laughing at me." Belle's eyes welled up with tears, looking utterly pitiful. I never expected she'd resort to playing the sympathy card just to stop me from scratching the lottery ticket publicly, but I said loudly, "Belle, even if you don't scratch out any money, there's no shame in it. You are willing to share your luck with me. That's something money can't measure. You really are a materialistic woman, judging a friend's gift by its monetary value. Before Belle could respond, a man walked into the private room. He shielded Belle behind him and snatched the scratch card from my hand. Shin Callista, I never expected you to be this kind of person, forcing your roommate to do something she dislikes, right in front of everyone. I almost burst out laughing at Hugo's self-righteous act. Hugo's parents know my aunt, which is why she gave him my WeChat when I started college. I know my aunt hoped Hugo and I would hit it off, but he took it way too seriously and started bossing me around. In my past life, Hugo used his knowledge of my family background to conspire with Belle, who was already with him, against me, after Belle murdered me. Hugo even told my parents that I died because I led a promiscuous life and was killed by a man seeking revenge. He even had Belle play the dutiful daughter-in-law in front of my parents, all to scheme his way into seizing my family's assets. So this lottery ticket was no accident. It was a trap they set up from the very beginning. Hugo knew all along that my parents were going to give me the car. He used the lottery ticket to stir things up. Watching Hugo's indignant expression, I chuckled. I thought I had the right to do as I pleased with gifts given to me. If I'm not even allowed to open a gift in public, then I don't want this scratch card anymore. Hugo immediately grew frantic. Shin Callista, how could you be so snobbish? Is it just because Belle comes from a poor background that you won't even accept her gift? Belle also began weeping quietly on the side. Callista, I failed to recognize my place. I don't deserve to be friends with you all. But I never wanted my parents to get sick either. Do you really think your own parents will stay perfectly healthy forever? When your parents fall seriously ill someday, I would never look down on you or abandon you. Are you out of your mind, Belle? How could you curse our families like that? Enough, Callista. Hugo cut me off with a frown. If you hadn't provoked Belle, would she have lashed out like that, too? After all this, you still can't see that you're the one at fault here. Apologize to Belle immediately and compensate her with 3,000 for emotional damages, then we can consider this matter closed. I stared at Hugo in disbelief. Me, apologize to her? Am I not even allowed to unwrap the gift she gave me? Should I just enshrine it as is? It's not that you can't open it, it's that you shouldn't do it in public. Are you even listening? I laughed. So I can do anything with it, as long as I don't open it in front of everyone, right? Hugo nodded. Exactly. All right then, hand over the lottery ticket. Belle shot Hugo a skeptical glance, and only after he nodded did she reluctantly pass me the ticket. I let out a cold laugh and tore the ticket in two with a swift motion. Everyone in the room was completely stunned. My roommates couldn't help but give me a thumbs up. While Belle seemed caught off guard by how things had unfolded, she turned to Hugo with a panicked expression. Before they could say anything, I smiled and said, I've accepted the gift. And what I do with it is my right. It's already torn to pieces now. Even if you scratch it off, it's void. Can you please stop causing a scene at my birthday party? Callista, why would you do this to me? Belle's voice trembled with tears. I was foolish to think you actually considered me a friend. I went without food for 3 days just to save $30 to buy you a gift. But even if you look down on me, did you really have to tear it up right in front of me? Hugo slammed his hand on the table in fury. Shin Callista, I never thought you could be such a terrible person. My mother won't even buy herself pants that cost 31 yuan, yet you're here wasting things and trampling on people's goodwill. You're utterly hopeless and stubborn beyond reason. Get on your knees and apologize to Belle right now, then transfer all your money to me. From now on, I'll give you 5 yuan a day for living expenses. If we let you keep squandering money like this, you'll blow through all the hard-earned cash my parents worked for. I shot Hugo a bewildered look, my lips twisting into a smirk. Are you out of your mind? When did I ever say I'd marry you? Who do you think you are, ordering me around like this? Damn it, I'm your fiancé. Your aunt already accepted my betrothal gift of 800 and decided to marry you off to me. Every penny you're spending is marital property, and every disgraceful act you commit is an insult to my dignity. Get on your knees and apologize to Belle right now, or I won't marry you. Hearing this, I was completely stunned. My aunt really does enjoy setting me up with toxic partners, always worried I might marry better than her daughter. I never imagined she'd have the nerve to arrange my marriage for just $800. I was so stunned I almost laughed, but before I could say anything, Belle smugly said, Callista, you might have a terrible personality, but you've got luck on your side to land a fiancé like Hugo. If you kneel and apologize to me now, and hand over the money, I might even put in a good word with Hugo to treat you better. After all, he's trained in Sonda. If you want to test his skills, that can be arranged. The other roommates were all shocked and started speaking up for me. Belle, are you threatening Callista with violence? What you're doing is illegal. And before you two go out, maybe take a look in the mirror and see what you really look like. How dare you have the audacity to dream of marrying Callista? Hugo immediately produced the transaction records between him and my aunt. I've already paid the bride price, so she's my wife and should do as I say. Shin Callista, hurry up and get a room. We'll consummate the marriage later. You're so disobedient. If I don't make you submit soon, there'll be trouble. Hugo came up and tried to grab my hand. So I quickly called for hotel security. The security guard pulled Hugo aside, but he kept insisting, "She's my fiancée, going to a hotel with me is perfectly reasonable." The security guard was completely stunned. I pulled out my phone to call the police. Only when Hugo realized I was serious did he start to panic. "Shin Callista, your family has already accepted my bride price. Even if you refuse me now, you'll end up marrying me anyway. Just wait till after the wedding, we'll see if you're still this cocky then. Let's go, Belle." Hugo grabbed her arm and practically fled the scene. My roommate was about to chase after them, but I stopped him. "Don't bother with them. Just keep your distance from now on." Hugo and Belle tried to set me up with a scratch card scam, but their plan failed. I doubt they'll let this go easily, without solid evidence. Even if I report this to the police, they won't face much punishment. To take them down for good, I need the right opportunity. Little did I expect that opportunity would come so soon. My roommate and I had just finished dinner when I saw a trending topic online with the title, "Rich Roommate Leads Entire Dorm in Bullying a Poor Student." In my past life, they used public opinion to drive me to my death. Looks like they're trying the same tactic again in this life. Joyce and the others had their Douyin accounts blocked long ago, so they couldn't see this topic. If it weren't for my memories of my past life, I wouldn't have bothered creating a burner account just to check Belle's updates. Her account only has one video posted, which takes the hotel content completely out of context. The entire comment section is telling me to die, with some even suggesting my family be investigated, implying that with such terrible morals and wealth, the money must be dirty. And Belle is still leaving those fake innocent replies below. I'm honestly too afraid to stand up to them. I only made this account out of fear that I might just disappear one day. Her words only fueled everyone's outrage. "Damn, is that princess in your dorm really that arrogant? This is a society governed by law. Does she think she can just take someone's life? I suggest the blogger post her photo so we can all help you out. It's not right to cyberbully someone based solely on the blogger's one-sided story. Let's all try to be more rational online." As soon as doubts surfaced in the comments section, Belle immediately responded, "I can go live to show everyone her true colors. I hope everyone sees her despicable behavior and stands up for me." Just as I turned off my phone, I happened to reach the dormitory entrance. Taking a deep breath, I found myself almost looking forward to seeing how Belle would expose my despicable behavior to everyone. The moment she stepped inside, Belle dropped to her knees with a thud. "Callista, what happened today was my fault. I overstepped my bounds. A scholarship student like me should never have presumed we could be friends, but I meant no harm. Please, I'm begging you, don't make me move out of the dorm." Belle kept insisting she meant no harm, yet all my cosmetics ended up spilled on the floor. A foul odor was coming from my bed, and the down jacket hanging on the balcony had a huge hole torn in it. I was so furious I was grinding my teeth, itching to slap her twice. But then I spotted the hidden camera placed by the bedside. I took a deep breath and held it in. Of course, the live stream viewers had no idea what Belle was doing, but they could clearly see it. As soon as the other roommates entered, they all frowned and covered their noses in an instant. "What's that smell? What's going on in the dorm? Holy crap, Callista, all your stuff is broken." "Belle, what did you do?" Belle immediately burst into tears. "I'm so sorry. I've taken so many showers already. Do I really still smell? But you guys are the only ones who can smell it. I don't know how to get rid of it. I took too long in the shower and didn't have time to clean up the dorm. I'll go clean up Callista's things right now." "No need." I stopped her just as she was about to stand up. Belle dropped to her knees with a thud. "I'm sorry for acting on my own. Callista, you take charge. I'll do exactly as you say." The other roommates were stunned. "Belle, what are you doing? No one told you to kneel. You're making it look like we're bullying you." The moment the roommate finished speaking, the live chat exploded with comments. "Holy crap, they've literally forced someone to their knees and still have the nerve to act like this. Normal college girls don't have any weird body odor. Okay, they're just finding excuses to pick on her." I can't believe the streamer is still living in that dorm. I would have lost it ages ago. That bully named Callista. I'd love to see what other nasty tricks she's got up her sleeve. I gritted my teeth and switched to another screen on my phone. "Officer, I need to report a crime." Belle was stunned and rushed toward me in tears. "Callista, please don't send me to jail. I'm begging you, please don't." After learning that the police were about to be dispatched, I hung up the phone and looked down at her. "Belle, you haven't done anything wrong. Why would you end up in jail? The dorm being trashed like this for no reason definitely means something's wrong. My down jacket and makeup are all ruined. We must have been robbed. Of course we should call the police. If intruders can get in this easily, what if they hurt us next time?" Belle looked panicked and quickly stood up. "It's my fault for not putting these things away properly, Callista. I know you have the power to do this, but please don't actually have me arrested. 3. Did you forget that you ruined the down jacket and makeup when you came back from the club last night? Belle, what the hell are you barking about? When did Callista ever go to a nightclub? Joyce looked at her in disbelief. Belle suddenly slapped herself across the face. This is my fault. I shouldn't have said anything. The roommates grew even angrier, and it looked like they were about to lay hands on Belle. I was worried they'd be hurt by public opinion, so I quickly said what I was doing last night. The police will uncover the truth when they arrive. We'll also get to the bottom of what exactly happened here. Belle, I told you not to clean up because I wanted to preserve the evidence for the police to see clearly. If you insist on tidying up, does that mean you had something to do with damaging these items? Belle was stunned, stammering as she tried to defend herself. I chuckled lightly. You tampered with the crime scene after I'd already called the police. That's clearly a sign of guilt. Belle, I believe none of this has anything to do with you. Let's just wait for the police to arrive. Belle, after all, had been manipulating public opinion. Hearing this, she had no choice but to brace herself and wait for the police. The police arrived and immediately noticed something was off about the dorm. It's clear someone vandalized your belongings intentionally. If this were a burglary, they wouldn't have targeted just your stuff. Is there anyone at school you don't get along with? I frowned slightly. The semester just started. Besides my roommates, I hardly know anyone here. My roommates and I just went out for a meal. Everything was fine when we left, but it was like this when we got back. My roommate Joyce seized the moment to chime in. But Belle came back early because she was having a spat with Callista. The officer turned to Belle, about to press for more details. The dorm supervisor rushed in, completely out of breath. She shot me a venomous glare and said, "Shin Callista, what could possibly be so serious that the school couldn't handle it? Did you really have to call the police? Do you have any idea you're wasting police resources?" Before I could explain, the counselor turned to the police officer and said, "Officer, this Callistation has always had a privileged attitude. She's been bullying Belle in their dorm room constantly. I think she staged this whole thing herself. Just look at how badly she's made Belle cry. We really appreciate your help, but our school can handle this matter internally." "Counselor, how can you accuse me of staging this?" I interjected quickly as the counselor was about to escort the police out. "Would I be crazy enough to destroy my own belongings just to frame Belle? Even if you think these damaged items are no big deal, what about secretly installing surveillance cameras in the dorm room? Is this even legal?" My gaze remained fixed on the instructor. Since the start of the semester, Belle had become her most devoted sycophant. Every other girl in the class, except Belle, became a target of her hostility. During military training, to curry favor with the male instructors, she forced girls on their periods to carry heavy loads for 5 kilometers. In my past life, after Belle drove me to my death, she initially wanted no part in this matter. Just because Hugo called her sister, she helped Belle fabricate evidence, claiming I was nothing but a troublemaker. As a result, the truth behind my tragic death remained completely unknown. Sure enough, the moment I mentioned someone had secretly installed surveillance in the dorm, she immediately panicked. How could my student possibly install surveillance cameras in the dorm without authorization? "Shin Callista, if you keep causing trouble here, I will make sure the school disciplines you." I laughed. "Counselor, just because you don't believe it doesn't mean no one installed them illegally. All our personal information has been leaked. If you won't handle this, I'll have to seek justice through the legal system." At my words, she shot a skeptical glance at Belle. Belle instinctively retorted, "Shin Callista, stop being so paranoid here. Who on earth would want to see your privacy anyway?" The instructor sneered. "Some people could be stark naked and still kill any desire." The officer immediately snapped at them. "Watch your language." The counselor finally toned it down a notch and said arrogantly, "If someone really installed a surveillance camera in the dorm without permission, I would definitely have them expelled, but without any evidence. You're trying to frame your roommate and causing such a scene, damaging the school's reputation. You'll have to face the consequences too." After she finished speaking, I just smiled. I walked straight over to where the pinhole camera was hidden. The moment I pulled out the camera, everyone in the room froze. The advisor instinctively glanced at Belle, whose face had gone pale, and understood everything the instant he saw the panic in her eyes. But Joyce had already cried out, "Who installed a camera in our dorm? Are you insane? Sometimes we don't even wear clothes in the dorm. What were they trying to do?" All eyes turned to Belle almost simultaneously. Before she could speak, the advisor cut in sharply, "Callistation, I thought you were just a bit spoiled, but I never imagined you'd stoop this low. You actually planted hidden cameras in the dormitory just to frame Belle. These girls are in the prime of their lives. Have you no thought for how your actions could ruin them forever?" I let out a bitter laugh. "How on earth would it be me who installed it?" The advisor snorted coldly. "No one else knew about the camera in your dorm, only you. If it wasn't you, then who else could it be? It can't be Callista. From the start of the semester till now, she's never been alone in the dorm. So far, Belle is the only one who's been alone in the dorm today." "She's the only suspect," Belle snapped. What evidence do you have to accuse me like this? I know Callistation is a rich girl and you're all eager to be her lapdogs, but that doesn't mean you can gang up to bully me. The counselor seized the opportunity to speak to the police. That's right, this Callistation has led the bullying against Belle more than once. During military training, her roommates kept pressuring Belle to pay up. They knew she was a scholarship student. Yet even made her chip in a yuan for a trash can. When Belle refused, they banned her from using the dorm trash bin, but Belle's too kind to confront them. They're just taking advantage of her good nature and escalating their bullying. The instructor's gaze was fixed intently on me. I slowly looked up, realizing she was convinced I had no evidence of Belle purchasing the camera. I said with a smile, "Instructor, you've always been so biased toward Belle. Convinced that we're conspiring to frame her, but if I can produce evidence proving Belle installed the camera, will you also take responsibility? For example, I have every right to report to the school whether you're actually qualified for this advisor role." The advisor froze in place, clearly caught off guard by my words. "Advisor, do you still dare to vouch for her?" A flicker of guilt flashed in the advisor's eyes. Just as she seemed to waver, Belle spoke up through tears. "You have to believe me, advisor. Callistation has always picked on me. I can endure all of this, but as someone who fought my way up from the countryside, I'm my seriously ill parents' only hope. I'm completely focused on my studies, but Callista is clearly trying to get me expelled from the university. Even you don't believe me, advisor." Hearing this, the advisor thought that if Belle dared to say this so boldly, she probably hadn't left behind any evidence. I forced myself to speak up. "I vouch for Belle, but if you can't produce evidence, you're just proving you framed her, and you'll be held accountable." I snatched Belle's phone and used facial recognition to unlock it while she was still in shock. With a swift motion, I opened the live streaming app. This is my evidence. Go ahead and check Belle's phone. The live stream is clearly footage from a hidden camera. After I said that, everyone was stunned. They quickly looked at the phone and realized it was indeed our dorm room. All eyes turned to Belle in shock, and Joyce pointed at her angrily, yelling, "No wonder you dropped to your knees the moment we got back today. So you were putting on a show for everyone. Belle, you knocked over Callista's things and stunk up the whole dorm, all just to provoke us. Well, I never thought you'd stoop to such scheming." Belle stammered, unable to get a word in edgewise. I leaned in close to the camera and gave the lens a slight smile. "But you didn't see that coming. You're all part of her plan too." The moment I finished speaking, the entire live stream went wild. "Holy crap, is Callista talking to us?" So Callista knew about the live stream the whole time. The young lady is really sharp. Hey, don't jump to conclusions just because of this. Maybe Callista is just cunning. And Belle had no choice but to do this because she couldn't capture her true colors. After all, someone who can even catch their roommate secretly live streaming must be incredibly shrewd. Are you kidding me? So you're saying Belle deliberately damaged someone else's stuff and manipulated Callista and their dorm into turning against each other, all just to expose their ugly true colors? Don't even joke about that. If anyone messed with my things, I'd tear them apart. The young lady has already shown remarkable patience and level-headedness. Online opinions are all over the place, but nothing was quite as entertaining as the look on the counselor's face. Her astonished gaze fell on Belle, but before she could question anything, I spoke up first. "Teacher, I already have the evidence. You should also honor the promise you made earlier." The counselor stood frozen for a long moment before stammering. "Belle only did this because you've been bullying her all along. Callista, everyone has their limits. You've been bullying Belle for so long. It's only natural she'd want to get back at you." Granted, her methods were questionable, but this whole thing started because you looked down on her. I frowned at the counselor and said, "When did I ever look down on her?" But no sooner had I spoken than Belle produced the surveillance footage from our hotel, in the selectively edited footage. I come across as looking down on Belle the entire time, while all the parts where she deliberately provoked us were completely cut out. The advisor quickly interjected, "Callista, Belle went out of her way to celebrate your birthday, and this is how you treat her. How did someone so young become such a snob? You're going to ruin Belle's life like this." The video was initially seen by only a small group of netizens, but as the incident gained traction, the entire live stream audience ended up viewing the hotel surveillance footage. Public opinion suddenly shifted. "I'm speechless. Even if you didn't like it, you shouldn't have torn up a gift someone gave you right in front of everyone." No wonder Belle was so angry she did what she did. If it were me, I probably wouldn't be able to stand living in that dorm either. Seriously, someone upstairs just called this bitch in mistress. What a joke! How pathetic for someone with that kind of character. I couldn't help but laugh at the heated discussion among netizens. If I hadn't insisted on scratching the lottery ticket in public, what if Belle later accused me of winning and claimed I used her money? Hearing my words, Belle's face instantly darkened. Her gaze was fixed intently on me, as if she was deeply curious about how I could have anticipated her and Hugo's thoughts in advance. Of course. Belle couldn't just ask me outright in the middle of the crowd. Her lips trembled slightly as 2 streams of tears traced down her cheeks. Callista, I wondered why you insisted on opening it. So this is what you really think of me. Even if I come from a poor family, it doesn't mean a gift once given should ever be taken back. You don't have to believe me, but why go to such lengths to ruin me? She was crying her heart out, as if I had deliberately caused everything that happened today. The instructor also added fuel to the fire, accusing in the live stream, Callista, I never expected you to bully classmates outside of school too, for, although Belle went a bit too far in this matter, you managed to be even worse. I furrowed my brow and said, Counselor, I really don't understand. If I scratch the lottery ticket in public, it'll prevent a lot of conflicts and misunderstandings. For example, if I suddenly come into money, Belle can't claim I won it from a lottery ticket. If you think this is no big deal, then I'll give you a lottery ticket today too, but you can't scratch it open here. After some time, if you buy something, I'll just say you used my winning ticket, and I'll make you pay me back every penny. The counselor furrowed his brow. You might be capable of such a thing, but Belle would never be that kind of person. All right, this matter has escalated enough. The fault lies with you. Apologize to Belle now and don't waste the police's time. Our job is to help resolve this situation. Based on what we've seen, Belle's actions are far more serious than those of Callista. The counselor's expression stiffened. This is just childish horseplay. Officer, please don't take it to heart. Taking a deep breath, I handed the police a video without even looking back. They have surveillance footage. Well, so do I. The moment the full hotel footage started playing, everyone in the room was stunned. The police officer frowned deeply. While the counselor shot a look of utter disbelief at Belle, she stammered, still trying to come up with an excuse. I just laughed and said, after receiving the gifts, I did mention that it's the thought that counts, but Belle kept interrupting and deliberately twisted my words. If accepting a birthday gift has to be this difficult, why should I even bother? My roommates all chimed in to back me up. The moment Belle arrived, she started calling our gifts trash. She claims she put thought into hers. Does that mean the rest of us didn't? And it's just asking her to scratch it open to check, yet she keeps making excuses as if her life depended on it. Do you really believe there's nothing fishy going on here? The moment we stepped into the dorm, the whole place was a complete mess. It looked like a dumpster fire. If it were your dorm room, wouldn't you be furious coming back to this? The roommates fired off questions one after another, and just then, netizens finished watching the hotel surveillance footage. Holy crap, we've been set up. Folks, the young miss is actually innocent. No wonder Callista said we were part of the plan too. Turns out we really got played. Belle's whole series of deliberate manipulations. How is this any different from what happened in today's live stream? Her intentions are downright malicious. She actually tried to use public opinion to ruin her own roommate. Someone like this deserves to be fired on the spot, and that goddamn counselor too. Does she even know the truth? Just yapping away. Fire them both. Upstairs comment, that counselor used to be my supervisor, total pick-me for men, and Belle's the same. No wonder they get along so well. I've already reported both of them to the principal. They're gonna get what's coming. The instructor turned pale with shock and immediately confronted Belle. What on earth is going on here, Belle? You were the one who kept telling me that Callista was bullying you with her friends. That's why I stood up for you. I never expected you to be this kind of person. How dare you even lie to a teacher? Belle burst into tears immediately. It's my fault. I'm just an introverted and overly sensitive person. I've been bullied by Callista at school constantly, which is why I was terrified of embarrassing myself at her birthday party. She wiped the tears from the corner of her eyes and dropped to her knees with a thud. I truly know I was wrong. I promise I'll never do anything like this again. Could you all please give me another chance? My parents are still in the hospital. If they find out I messed up at school, my dad's heart condition definitely won't be able to take it. I was being too sensitive. I'm begging all of you, please. The officer looked at me with a troubled expression. Miss Callista, since this is ultimately Belle's fault, you're well within your rights to press charges if you wish. Netizens have already dug up Belle's background and confirmed that both of her parents are seriously ill. Many people genuinely feel sorry for her. After all, Belle is their family's only hope. If anything were to happen to her, this already broken family would be completely finished. I furrowed my brow. Belle's behavior truly disgusts me. But pursuing this matter further under these circumstances would be unwise. Then I demand that Belle publicly apologize to me, admit her wrongdoing, and move out of our dorm. Belle nodded repeatedly. She admitted to trying to use public opinion to frame me and moved out of our dorm, although the dorm supervisor wasn't fired by the school. But after this incident blew up, many former senior students came forward to expose how she'd been pandering to men. The school eventually gave in to the pressure and suspended her. My roommates thought I let Belle off too easy. Still, I figured it's better to avoid trouble. As long as I steer clear of Belle for good, there won't be any more issues. To my surprise, a month later, she actually reached out to me first and asked to hang out. Not wanting to interact with her, I naturally declined, but then, unexpectedly, Belle's current roommates cornered me ever since Belle moved into her new dorm. She quickly bonded with her roommates. They bought into her lies and believed we were the ones bullying her all along. After finding out I didn't accept Belle's apology, they cornered me in the restroom. "What are you trying to do? This is school bullying. It's illegal." They didn't even flinch. "You never faced any consequences when you bullied Belle. Come with us quietly to sort this out, and we won't lay a hand on you. If you don't cooperate, you're going to have a bad time." Surrounded by 6 people, I tried to reach for my phone, but they snatched it away the moment I moved. With no other choice, I went along with them to see what tricks they had up their sleeves. As soon as we entered the bar, Belle poured me a drink and spiked it right in front of me. "Callista, we're classmates after all. Just drink this as my peace offering, and I'll let bygones be bygones." "What did you put in it?" Belle chuckled. "Don't worry. It won't kill you. Since you weren't happy with the birthday gift I got you, I prepared a new one." No sooner had she spoken than a vagrant stepped into the compartment. His leering grin was so repulsive I nearly vomited on the spot. "Belle, you'll get yourself convicted for this. Let me out of here now." Belle chuckled. "Sentencing. I've done my research. As long as he keeps you satisfied, you'd willingly be at his beck and call. Why would there be any sentencing, even if he's not afraid?" "What about you and your roommate?" Belle raised an eyebrow. "Those fools have no idea what I really brought you out here for. They'll just think it was your promiscuity that led to this happening today," I screamed, hoping to attract Belle's roommate's attention. But the moment I opened my mouth, the homeless man pinned me down on the table. Alcohol was forced down my throat, a burning sensation rising as I weakly turned to Belle and cried, "Why would you do this to me?" Her venomous gaze pierced through me. "Callista, you were supposed to die with that lottery ticket. Why didn't you just die in this lifetime?" My pupils constricted abruptly. I stared at Belle in disbelief as a mischievous smirk curled her lips. "Unless you've been reborn too." "What do you mean by rebirth? I don't understand." "Belle, what do you actually want? If it's money, I can give it to you." She let out a cold laugh. "I despise people like you, rich folks who throw around petty favors and expect endless gratitude in return. But look at you now, as arrogant as you usually are. You still need me to show you some kindness, don't you?" "But I just want to watch you die." Belle turned and walked away, completely ignoring my desperate calls from behind. The moment the door closed, the homeless man's greedy eyes pierced through me. After a night had passed, the effects of the drug wore off. I thought about it for a long time and ultimately decided to keep the evidence for now instead of going to the police. But as soon as I got back to school, all my classmates turned their eyes toward me. I never expected Callista to be that kind of person. We've never even seen her parents around. How could she suddenly have a dad buy her a car? Turns out she earned it all by keeping company. I froze in place, only then noticing the car my father gave me parked in the distance. That's right, Belle had also been reborn, and she knew exactly when my father would give me the car. Belle couldn't hide the smirk on her face. "Callista, I really thought you were some rich heiress, so this is how you get your money." Her roommates also started chiming in, "And she's so desperate she'd serve just about anyone. That old man looks like a homeless bum to me." The room erupted in mocking laughter, countless malicious eyes piercing through me. I fired back immediately. "How dare you spread such vicious rumors about me?" "Spreading rumors? The whole school knows about you cozying up to that old man. Callista, did you really think you could keep it under wraps?" I turned my gaze to Belle. "Did you spread this around?" "Callista, you brought this on yourself with your indiscretions. You just happened to get caught." I curled my lips into a smirk and stepped up to her, slapping her across the face. "I've got evidence of you drugging me. You're going to jail." Callista, you brought this on yourself, and now you're trying to pin it on me. I've seen plenty of people like you, all talk, no accountability." Her outburst drew an even larger crowd of onlookers. Seeing that almost everyone had arrived, I immediately posted a video online. It contained the entire process of Belle threatening me. Everyone was stunned after watching the video, and Belle looked at me in disbelief. I smiled and said, "Curious why I still have the video even after you bought out the surveillance." Before Belle could react, someone gasped in surprise. "Holy crap, Ezra, wasn't the Chingroup's heir supposed to be abroad? Why did he suddenly show up next to Callista?" Belle instantly turned pale. How do you know Ezra?" I didn't respond, but she was already completely panicked. "Ezra is not someone she can afford to cross," she stammered, trying to steer the narrative, but everyone around fell silent the moment they saw Ezra. No one would risk offending the Chin family just for some gossip. Belle stumbled backward in terror, accidentally colliding with Hugo's chest. She snapped her head toward Hugo. Hugo, save me, you're the one who said, shut your mouth, Hugo roared, cutting Belle off mid-sentence. Then he frowned at me and said, Callista, whether it was the homeless man or Ezra, your affair is undeniable, we're engaged. And you're already seeing another man behind my back. I was so furious I raised my hand to slap him, but someone grabbed my wrist. Hitting such a fool would only dirty your hands. Ezra shielded me behind him and looked at Hugo with disdain. Didn't you look in the mirror before leaving the house? How dare you even think about my fiancé? Ezra, your family may be wealthy, but Chin Callista's family has accepted my bride price. She's my wife, Ezra sneered. You call $800 a bride price, have some shame. Callista's end is nothing but a wicked enabler. You fool got swindled out of your money, and now you're here barking like a dog. Who do you think you are? Just some blind date Callista's end casually set up. Too bad. Ezra took my hand. We're getting engaged. Hugo was furious. Chin Callista, what gives you the right to marry him? Ezra's bodyguard slapped him across the face and pinned him down forcefully. We've got evidence that you drugged Miss Chin. Get ready to rot in prison. When the police arrived, Hugo was still making lame excuses, but his purchase records had already been subpoenaed, leaving him no choice but to go with the officers. Belle tried to use her parents as a shield again, but this time she couldn't escape the consequences of breaking the law, in hopes of a reduced sentence. Belle didn't hesitate to reveal that her roommate was an accomplice. When they were taken away during class, they were all in tears, admitting their mistakes and begging me to let them go, but I knew all too well what could have happened that day if I hadn't already made plans to meet Ezra that evening. The day of the trial, they knelt on the ground and begged me for mercy. Callista, we truly know we were wrong. Please give us another chance. It was all Belle's doing. I always knew she was a vile creature. 5. My gaze fell coldly upon the people on the ground as I sneered. You're no saints either. They were sobbing hysterically and were escorted out of the courtroom early. Belle remained silent the entire time. When the verdict of 10 years was announced, she screamed like a madwoman. No, this can't be happening. Why, it wasn't like this in my past life. Seizing the opportunity, Ezra claimed Belle had gone insane and had her committed to a psychiatric hospital, originally. Belle was merely terrified, but under Ezra's influence, she truly lost her mind. A year later, Ezra and I called off our engagement. We went to visit Hugo in prison together and broke the news to him about Belle's passing. She literally scared herself to death. Right before she died, she was still muttering about wanting to crash and restart her life. Hugo was trembling with fear, and he never quite seemed right in the head after that. Ezra, on the other hand, kept laughing. So I asked him what was so funny. He said, you're 20 today, we can finally get our marriage license. Story 2, when the zombie apocalypse struck, I was pregnant and sought refuge with my boyfriend, only to discover he already had a wife. On the run, my boyfriend's family used me as a shield. In the end, I witnessed my unborn child being horrifically torn from me by zombies. When I awoke, drenched in sweat, I immediately checked myself over. Thankfully, my stomach was intact, and my limbs were unharmed. I quickly realized that I had been given a second chance at life. I picked up my phone and saw the date, January 5th, 10:00 a.m. I had returned to the time just after the New Year holiday, 1 month before the zombies would arrive. The ringing of my phone snapped me out of my thoughts. It was Marshall calling. Serena, are you still asleep? Don't forget you're having lunch with my mom later, he said. Lunch, I replied, still disoriented. Yes, he said impatiently. You didn't forget, did you? You're the one who arranged this meal. I remembered that a few weeks ago, Marshall had brought up the topic of getting our marriage certificate, and I had suggested that both families meet for a meal to discuss further. Okay, I replied coldly, and he promptly hung up. I needed a moment to calm myself. In my previous life, this very lunch had led to my father's fatal car accident. On his way there, my company was quickly split among my uncles, and Marshall, who had initially pursued me for my company, stopped talking about the marriage certificate and even mentioned breaking up multiple times, completely disregarding the pain of my recent loss. It was only after his mother persuaded him to at least have a child that he stopped pushing for a breakup, clinging to the last straw in my devastated state. I moved into his house during my pregnancy and discovered he already had a wife from a rural area who had a wedding ceremony but no legal marriage. This time, I didn't inform my father about the meal. He had always opposed my relationship with Marshall, but I had stubbornly insisted on marrying him, which not only led to my father's death but also my own downfall. Staring at the date displayed on my phone, I realized I had 1 month left before the zombie apocalypse. I needed to prepare. I called a renovation company to start work on my new, yet-to-be-decorated apartment the next day. Originally intended as mine and Marshall's marital home, the apartment was on the 36th floor of a high-end building with a loft and balcony. Its location in a large complex with several supermarkets made it an ideal stronghold for the apocalypse. This was one of the main reasons I had chosen it, along with the loft that appealed to my hoarding instincts. By the time the apocalypse hit, I could store all supplies there without any space issues. Lying on my bed, I started making a list: rice, flour, canned goods, soy sauce, salt, oil, sugar, baking soda, yeast, chili sauce, chocolate, milk, instant noodles, bread, cured meat, self-heating hot pots, snack foods, military rations, compressed biscuits, various dried fruits, beans, various kinds of dried meats, dried black fungus, mushrooms, seaweed, kelp, tissue paper, bottled water, solar panels, disinfectant, masks, insulated clothing, snow boots, oxygen masks, emergency and common medications, cat litter, soap. I meticulously listed each item, afraid of missing anything essential, but transporting all these goods discreetly was crucial, as human nature could be more terrifying than any zombie. I unconsciously touched my stomach. Wasn't I the perfect example of this? After some thought, I decided I needed help. As for my father, I would deal with Marshall first. Since I was currently at odds with my father because of Marshall, I needed to resolve things with Marshall's family quickly. Burying my head in my pillow, I lamented not knowing when or if the apocalypse would end in my previous life. For now, securing supplies was my top priority, but beyond that, I couldn't know anymore. Everything was uncertain. I stared at the name on the dial screen for a long time, pondering for a while before finally pressing the call button. The phone was answered quickly, and it was a familiar voice. Miles, the childhood friend I grew up with. When he was 16, his parents divorced, and his father took him abroad to live. The night before he left, Miles had promised to cook me egg noodles, but the next day, he had vanished. He didn't return messages, and his calls didn't go through. At that time, I was particularly vulnerable. I thought I had been abandoned again. I couldn't tell if I was more sad or desperate, but I never contacted Miles again after that. For some reason, in this new life, I ended up calling him again. Serena, what's up? Why the sudden call? Is something wrong? Hearing that familiar voice, I felt somewhat aggrieved. No, it's just, I have something I need to tell you. I told him about the zombie apocalypse that was predicted to arrive in a month. Miles was the only person, besides my father, whom I could truly trust. After I finished, there was a long silence from both sides. Finally, it was Miles who broke the silence. Clearing my jumbled thoughts, what can I do? There were no questions, only an inquiry. This absolute trust was somewhat shocking, but I quickly steadied my thoughts. We need to prepare some self-defense items. You probably know more about this than I do. Sure, no problem. What else? And how to discreetly move supplies into the new house. Send me the list, and I'll arrange everything. His tone over the phone always inexplicably brought comfort. Wait, when are you coming back? There's only a month left. I was a bit worried. I'll book a flight back tomorrow. Okay. After hanging up, I didn't sit idle. I glanced at my phone. 13:00. It was still early, so I immediately grabbed my bag and headed out to stock up. I went straight to the wholesale market. Large items were difficult to transport, but staples like rice, flour, cured meat, and seaweed were easy to load up on, especially since Spring Festival was just half a month away. The vivid memories of last New Year's countdown and the dazzling fireworks were still fresh in my mind, welcoming the new year in a blaze of color. Little did everyone know, the new year would bring a zombie apocalypse. Remembering the events from my previous life made me feel down. It was bad enough that I had worried my father by choosing a worthless man, but that decision ultimately led to my father's death. However, in my previous life, my father didn't have to endure the fear of a zombie attack, which was a small consolation. At the wholesale market, right, 100 bags each of rice and flour, and also 30 bags each of cured meat, seaweed, etc. You need so much. Nell, the uncle tallying the goods, was warm-hearted and introduced me to various types of dried meats. Yes, I'm planning to visit my hometown this year and want to bring some New Year goods for the neighbors. What a good girl. The uncle spoke in a dialect I couldn't place, which felt especially warm. Just register at that counter over there, and we'll have it delivered to your door. All right, thank you, uncle. Being cautious, I didn't dare to list the new house's address directly but used the address Miles had given me instead, a vacant store owned by him. With just over a month to go, I could afford to spread out the purchases over several days. Right now, the priority was the large items, including renovations. I glanced at the time again, 16:30. There was a dinner party in the evening, a dinner to confront that worthless man, Serena. I arrived at the venue over an hour late. As soon as I got out of the car, I saw Marshall standing at the entrance, visibly angry. Why are you so late? Marshall suppressed his anger. Not daring to show it too openly, I looked at the man I once desperately wanted to marry, feeling nothing inside. My blindness in my past life had been thorough, pushing me to such extremes. There was a traffic jam. It slowed me down, I said bluntly. Marshall, dissatisfied, retorted, there was hardly any traffic when we came. How could there be a jam? I didn't have the patience to listen to his nonsense or to spar with him. I walked quickly in my high heels, with Marshall having to speed up to keep up. Slow down, aren't you listening to me? Of course, I wasn't. Sylvia, having waited so long, was already cursing. This future daughter-in-law hasn't even married into the family yet and she's already throwing her weight around. Once she's in, she'll turn the world upside down. The familiar voice of a shrew, echoing her was Sylvia's sister, Tessa. Exactly. You should really put her in her place later. To whom are you giving a lesson? I entered just as they spoke. Coincidentally, I arrived just in time to hear these words. Don't take it to heart. Young ladies these days have no sense of time. Now being late has an excuse. I nodded. I was held up by something last minute and then caught in traffic. I am a bit late indeed. Sylvia's face turned ashen, and in a suppressed voice, she said to Tessa, I told you, these rich girls are all just a bunch of drama queens. We're trying to find a wife, not marry the Empress Dowager. Marshall became anxious and kept giving Sylvia meaningful glances. I pretended not to hear, and just pulled out a chair for myself and sat down directly opposite Sylvia. Marshall hesitated for a moment before sitting next to me. Tessa began to speak in a sarcastic tone. We didn't expect the young miss to be so busy. Even Marshall isn't as busy as you. Tessa, childless and whose husband had passed away 2 years ago, had come to live with her sister. Aside from flattering Sylvia and Marshall, she spent her time gossiping. When I lived with them in my past life, Tessa constantly mocked me, calling me Miss Rich Girl as if she took twisted pleasure in trampling on others. Miss Rich Girl is just like that, busy with work and busy being a princess. I fiddled with my delicate, long fingernails. There's just never enough time in a day. Serena, Marshall called out to me in a low, dissatisfied voice, his eyes filled with questions. How did you become like this? Our Marshall isn't here to be some prince consort. Prince consort, him, really? I chuckled lightly, jokingly. Oh, then what? An emperor. Sylvia's expression grew even uglier, and she slammed her chopsticks down with a snap. Marshall kept tugging at me discreetly, trying to get me to step outside and talk. Why would I go with him? I continued, wanting to be an emperor. You should have your own merit, not just an empty pillow. Snap. Marshall also slammed his chopsticks down and finally couldn't hold back his anger, yelling at me. Enough. Serena, how did you become like this? What's wrong with me? I asked, puzzled. This was supposed to be a dinner to discuss our engagement. It's bad enough your father didn't show, but from the moment you walked in, you've been aggressive. Are you not planning to marry anymore? Marry? I carelessly brushed my bangs aside. Who said anything about getting married? Their three faces turned ashen. Serena, what do you mean? Marshall pressed, his eyes full of warning. What do I mean? Isn't it obvious? I slowly stood up. I'm meant to be the Empress Dowager, and you want to be the Emperor. Are you aiming to be my son or my grandson? What a joke. In my past life, when my father died and the zombies attacked, I was desperate and pregnant, forced to submit and keep my head down. But in this life, I am who I am, and you are who you are. Just a little respect and you dare tread on me, thinking I'm easy to bully. You, Serena, don't go too far. Marshall shouted furiously. If you're eyeing someone else's property, be prepared to act the part of a subordinate. Since you want to live off a woman, you better keep your head down, or if you want to have your cake and eat it too. I casually patted Marshall's shoulder. All the money I've spent on you over the years, you'll have to spit it back out. After saying that, I didn't care how spectacular their expressions were. I turned and left, my high heels clicking against the floor. It took Marshall a while to catch up, his hand blocking my luxury car door from closing. If you don't move your hand, I won't feel sorry for the future Emperor's hand. Serena, why would you say that? Do you know how much that would hurt me? Marshall looked genuinely hurt, I must admit. He had the acting skills that had deceived me so well in the past. Anyone who didn't know better would think Marshall was performing a tragedy. I don't know whether you're hurt, but I will count to 3, and if you haven't moved, your hand definitely will be. Heh. Before I even started counting, he quickly withdrew his hand. I hadn't even finished switching to my flats. It seems he doesn't care too much about risking his life, whether it's withdrawing his hand now, or using me as a zombie shield in my past life. I chuckled self-deprecatingly and sped off. This princess also had an appointment to get her hair done. The next day, 9:00 a.m., I called my dad. Hello, Dad. I broke up with Marshall. I felt a strange sense of relief, like surviving a disaster. That's good. I'll be home tonight. Hearing my dad's voice after a long time, I couldn't help but get choked up. I just nodded along to the few admonishing words on the other end of the phone, afraid that my dad would notice. After hanging up, I felt much lighter. Mom passed away early. And Dad was always swamped with work. His promises of spending time together were always postponed to next time. Back then, I still had Miles with me, giving me somewhat of a feeling of home. But after Miles left, my already scant sense of security plummeted into the negative. Gradually, I clung desperately to anyone who treated me well, as if that meant I had found love. But it was really just a desperate attempt at finding a remedy in an emergency. In the end, I was thoroughly drained. I slapped my face, trying to cheer myself up, remembering that I had an appointment with the renovation company yesterday. I quickly changed into casual clothes and headed straight to my apocalypse base. Yep, all windows were bulletproof, and the perimeter was reinforced with steel. The walls were made of concrete, as thick as possible. The inner walls were all lined with a layer of steel, plus several layers of soundproofing cotton. Waterproof paint covered everything, the attic included, leaving no nook or cranny untouched. The plumbing and wiring were specially routed, leaving room for solar power generation when needed. The balcony was completely enclosed in glass, looking from the outside like a cubic glass room. At the entrance of my single apartment unit, I installed 2 extra doors, both equipped with an electric grid. Surveillance and monitoring were made as comprehensive as possible. No matter how many questions the renovation team had, I silenced them with money. After all, rich people have their quirks. Even if I wanted a diamond-studded room, so what? It doesn't bother anyone else. Thinking back to the zombies in my past life, although individually their attack power wasn't strong, their group attacks were relentless. And zombies were not slow. At best, I could only run a few steps faster than them, driving. Let's see if it could withstand a mob of zombies. Standard car windows would shatter in a few strikes from zombies. Driving was not wise. In my past life, I saw many who tried to escape by car. Most died in car accidents born from extreme fear, turning into blazing infernos, adding to the horror of the apocalypse. My requirement was a fortress, simple in other decorative aspects. So the final timeline set was about 20 days, the fastest possible. I figured that 20 days was indeed the limit. Having a few days as a buffer was pretty good. After finalizing the renovation, I rushed to the flagship store and bought several tablets and smartphones, choosing the ones with the most storage and best performance, plus 5 computers that would be delivered. Though there's no internet in the apocalypse, I could download everything in advance. Electricity could be generated, not a big deal. After arranging all this, I started online shopping. A month wasn't too long or too short. The goal was to cover all essentials. Online shopping was the most convenient way to choose. I first bought some flashlights, kerosene lamps, and the like, then clothes for all seasons, bedding sets, and underwear by the box. Likely facing a long period of staying indoors, finding ways to pass time became crucial, so I also bought some exercise equipment, treadmill, stationary bike, dance machine, etc. I purchased every type of completed online novel, various TV shows, and variety programs available. Downloading everything to each newly purchased tablet, and games, offline mobile games downloaded on a phone. PC games would also be downloaded on the new computers. I thought about getting a bookshelf for some physical books. I'll move those from the other place later, then see what else I might need. When I finally snapped out of my shopping spree, it was already evening. I drove back to the house. I thought I had hidden it well. But the moment I saw Dad, I couldn't hold back anymore. After living with Marshall's family in my past life, every time I was wronged, I wished Dad was still alive. I never thought I'd see my living father again. Seeing his almost unfamiliar face, I couldn't help but burst into tears. "Serena, what's wrong? What's wrong?" Maxwell was at a loss. He had rarely seen his daughter cry. Clumsily, he wrapped his arms around her shoulders and gently comforted. "It's okay. That Marshall is not a good man. You leaving him, Dad. I was wrong." I interrupted before Dad could finish. "I actually got you killed." I couldn't help but tell Dad about everything from my past life, everything. I had imagined thousands of times what Dad's expression and attitude would be, but I didn't expect him to shed tears when I mentioned being disemboweled by zombies. "I'm sorry, Dad. This life, I will take care of myself, protect my family, and kill Marshall." Miles returned. He looked especially tired, dark circles under his eyes. I couldn't help but ask, "Why are your dark circles so severe? How long have you not slept?" "It's okay. I'll be fine after a sleep. Miles is here. Come on in." Maxwell heard the noise downstairs and came down, calling out to Miles. Miles' house was next to ours, but he hadn't returned for many years, and the house was momentarily uninhabitable, so Maxwell let Miles rest here for now, perhaps really too tired. Miles didn't refuse, nodding in agreement. He went upstairs, found a guest room, and went to sleep. Meanwhile, Downstairs, father and daughter were busy listing out tasks: fuel generators, fuel, solar panels, dry batteries, water tanks, water purifiers. These are all essential items, indispensable indeed. A network outage is manageable, but what's truly daunting is the unforeseeable water and power shutdowns that could drive one to despair. We should also get some live chickens and ducks, and I can raise them on the balcony. Maxwell added, that works. We might as well bring in some soil and grow vegetables since the balcony is big enough. I added another plan. We can make dried meat from the meat, but vegetables aren't as easy to preserve. I don't like dried vegetables, and pickled ones will eventually become tiresome. Alright, that's the plan then. I'll go ask a friend about getting a generator and such. Just as Maxwell left, Miles came downstairs. His hair was a mess from just waking up, but it somehow suited his handsome face. I always remember Miles as being gentle and refined. Seeing him unkempt like this was a first for me. It suddenly made me feel a bit uneasy. Serena. While I was lost in thought, Miles had already approached me and waved his hand trying to get my attention. Did you wake up so soon? Don't you need more sleep? I glanced at the clock. It was only 11 in the morning, and Miles had rushed back early. He hadn't slept much. Enough sleep. Sleeping too much actually feels odd, Miles said as he moved into the kitchen and started frying eggs. He seemed so at home in my kitchen. Soon, he served up 2 bowls of egg noodles. As he stood at the table, I took a deep breath. This is fulfilling a promise overdue by more than a decade. Miles looked at me with an apologetic face. I'm truly sorry for leaving without a word. Hearing this, my heart trembled slightly. I thought I had gotten over the resentment long ago. Hadn't I become accustomed to it? Why did it still hurt? Staring at the bowl of egg noodles, I asked, why didn't you respond to my messages? My father's company had issues, and he pulled me out of school, Miles said with a bitter smile. He threw away my phone, insisting we cut off all domestic contacts to avoid implicating anyone connected to us, so I had no way to reach you, and I was afraid to. I was stunned. How could this be? Was there such a layer to the story? By the time things settled down, it was already the 3rd year. And when I tried to contact you, you never responded. I was shocked. After waiting for Miles for 2 years without any word, my heart had turned to ashes, and I changed my number. Only after being reborn did I suddenly remember him and took the initiative to contact him. I had missed him in that lifetime due to a cruel twist of fate. The meal of egg noodles passed in unusual silence. It was only revived when Maxwell returned home, talking about the fuel generator. Serena, about that fuel generator, I managed to buy 2. Upon seeing Miles, he immediately fell silent, seemingly struggling with how to speak to Miles. I quickly explained, Dad, Miles is aware of it, just speak freely. Phew. I was worried about how to explain it. It's easier if Miles can believe it. Miles smiled. I've already got some self-defense items. We can all go take a look later. I immediately asked, at that shop? Yes. Miles nodded. Maxwell glanced around, realizing something was off. Seems like he wasn't the first to know about the zombie situation. Feeling a slight pang of jealousy, it was only when Miles took us to his shop that I realized it wasn't just a shop, it was a huge warehouse. I had been worried that the rice and flour I bought wouldn't fit. But those items only occupied a small corner. As I marveled, Miles strode over to an area covered with a dust cloth. With a gentle pull, he unveiled, here are the items. Even the worldly wise Maxwell was taken aback. Knives, crossbows, steel pipes, various repair tools, and some very precise instruments. Maxwell couldn't help but step forward for a closer look. Goodness, telescopes, microscopes, welding machines, and other machines he didn't even recognize. How did he manage all this? You've thought of everything, Maxwell couldn't help but remark. I was a bit perplexed. We can't just wait passively for an attack. If possible, maybe I could study the zombies. I was speechless, only able to commend the young man's ambition. What are these 2 things? I pointed to 2 unrecognizable objects in the corner. This, Miles said as he picked them up, allowing me to see that they were 2 specially modified chainsaws. I had someone modify these to make them more convenient for you to handle. Miles turned around, the sharp teeth of the chainsaws facing himself, and carefully handed them over to me. Miles couldn't help but caution, be careful. Taking the 2 chainsaws, I looked into his worried eyes, feeling a stir in my heart. The bodies of the chainsaws were lighter and smaller than standard models, but had larger and thicker teeth. It's hard to describe, but their killing power was definitely sufficient. Thank you, I really liked them. Time flew by. With only 17 days left until the apocalypse, my new house was hurriedly taking shape. With New Year's Eve just 2 days away, every household was busy shopping for the new year, so my extensive preparations only seemed a bit excessive, not out of place. Looking at the increasingly filled attic, I often thought, if the zombies were to arrive shortly after the new year, maybe at least not so many people would starve, but enough of that. I stopped myself from thinking too much. Dad and Miles had already booked a restaurant and were waiting. I collected myself and hurried out to dinner. I hadn't expected to run into an old acquaintance here. I adjusted my sunglasses to get a clearer look, and to my surprise, the man smiling obsequiously at a woman was really Marshall. Since that big confrontation at the dinner party, I hadn't let him off the hook. I had secretly sabotaged all the job offers he received. Was he now looking for another way out? Although I was curious, right now, eating was more important. "Why are you so late?" my father asked. Sorry, there was traffic," I said as I took off my coat. "The dishes just arrived." Perfect timing. Miles naturally took my coat and hung it on the chair. Unbeknownst to us, it had been almost half a month since Miles returned, and we had gradually broken the ice, slowly returning to our old ease. In half a month, the zombies would arrive. As the day approached, the tension increased. These days, my father had gradually started to step back from the company's affairs, and those uncles and aunts thought it was because my dad was in poor health and handling his final affairs. Of course, they would have preferred it that way. After the apocalypse, the much-coveted company would just be an empty shell. I didn't go straight home after dinner. Seeing Marshall looking tired as he stepped out the door, a thought crossed my mind. I stepped on the gas and followed him, until he walked into a small alley. I stopped the car and didn't approach alone, but noted the address and had someone keep an eye on it. This wasn't something I needed to handle personally. Before we broke up, thanks to me being a big spender, Marshall had rented a high-end apartment. After we split, without my financial support and a high-paying job, he couldn't afford the rent for that apartment, so he moved out immediately when the lease expired. He hadn't stopped bothering me, coming to my house several times, crying and begging to get back together. I simply packed his bags and moved back to the estate. He had never been allowed at the estate, so naturally, he couldn't find me. He had also tried to confront me at the company, but I decisively had security throw him out. Afterwards, when my dad stepped back from the company, Marshall stopped bothering me, probably realizing there was nothing to gain from me anymore, so I was happy for the peace. Spending my days with Miles overseeing the renovations of our apocalypse base, or purchasing supplies, Miles handled the other major arrangements, since after all, we would be a family taking refuge together in the future, and I was very reassured. Thinking of this, I felt a skip in my heart. Had I already considered Miles as part of the family? 2 days after having someone tail him, I got a report. Since seeing no hope of getting back together with me, Marshall had latched onto a wealthy female business owner. She was quite generous with her money, throwing so much at Marshall he was disoriented, including his dreadful mother, who was also bought over by the businesswoman, hoping she would become her daughter-in-law. The businesswoman was indeed attracted to Marshall's pretty boy looks, and seeing the attitude of Marshall's family, she was moved. Unfortunately, Marshall was already married, so while continuing to have him watched, I sent an anonymous email to the businesswoman, spilling the beans about Marshall being married. No evidence was needed. No woman is slow when it comes to catching a cheater. So, on the night of New Year's Eve, while I was happily having a reunion dinner with my dad and Miles, Marshall's family was in complete chaos. Marshall's wife got into a physical altercation with her female boss. Despite Sylvia and Tessa's attempts to break up the fight, they ended up getting slapped by the boss instead. My informant was giving me live updates through his phone. It was almost like a live broadcast. The female boss was formidable, too. She did nothing after receiving an anonymous text, until on New Year's Eve, she launched a surprise attack that caught Marshall's family off guard. She faced off against 3 shrews from Marshall's family and held her own. Her fierce demeanor left my informant in awe. Eventually, I even anonymously recommended a lawyer to the boss, so she could sue Marshall for fraud. Now, Marshall has to empty his savings for compensation and take up a job to pay off his debts. Later, the 3 shrews from Marshall's family had no choice but to sweep streets to support their family. I nodded. This was the life they deserved, and even that wasn't enough. "How are you so miserable without me?" I asked Marshall, who looked disheveled. With concern, "Get lost," he roared as if I had hit a sore spot. "And where have you ended up? Didn't you and your daughter lose the company too?" "But I have money." I smiled brilliantly. "Ha, money," Marshall scoffed. Then, as if something struck him, he said viciously, "Serena, do you remember the jade piece you lost?" Suddenly, I understood what he was getting at. He burst into laughter. "I remember it was left to you by your mother, right? So it was you who stole it." "Don't make it sound so ugly. What's wrong with taking something from a girlfriend?" he said pretentiously, adjusting his clothes. "Or you left it at my place when you were drunk." I laughed in anger. "But you told me you didn't find that jade." "Let's say I just found it now." I squinted at the man in front of me, trying to think of appropriate insults from my mental dictionary. Unfortunately, such words haven't been invented yet. 1 million, and it's yours again. Marshall's voice carried a clear thrill. I couldn't help but scoff, thinking he was trying to take advantage of me, but then, all right, sure enough, I saw Marshall's eyes light up, but I don't have that much cash on hand. I'll give you a property first. It's worth more than 1 million on the market. You can sell it to get the money. I handed him a card. Here's 200,000. Once you give me the jade, I'll take you to transfer the property. He snatched the card instantly. Tomorrow. We'll transfer it. His voice couldn't hide his excitement. I smiled, so eager. Well, then I wish you a speedy departure from this life. Marshall's family's old house had a storage room. In their past life, they survived for a long time thanks to the stored food in that room. This life, if it weren't for my involvement, they could have lasted even longer. But how could I let them have their way? Then I'll be magnanimously generous. I'll give them a good house. All right, that's settled. Also, stock up on food and supplies in the next few days and don't go out on the 5th. I thought about it and couldn't help but remind him. After all, this informant had helped me a lot. Luckily, he agreed readily. Watching the people on the computer screen, I couldn't help but laugh at their joy. I had my informant arrange for Marshall's family to be placed next to my Apocalypse apartment building, but their living room faced the side of my floor, from my living room's small balcony. I could directly see their living room. Usually, I keep the curtains drawn, but I'll open them when it's time for a surprise. What's so frightening about death? It's the inability to survive that should frighten these people. 13. 3 days left until the zombie attack. Recently, we've completely moved our things to my Apocalypse base. As time draws nearer, everyone is getting anxious. The 2 men in the house have already started restricting my outings. Miles goes out to buy whatever I need, and I'm happy to relax. Maxwell is trying to breed chickens on the balcony, aiming for a sustainable cycle of chickens laying eggs and eggs hatching into chickens. Meanwhile, I'm busy downloading various games and TV shows. I've made list after list, afraid of missing any essentials. We're constantly opening packages. Fortunately, Miles is in charge of restocking, whether it's food or supplies, and he picks things that have a long shelf life. Otherwise, the supplies might expire before the zombies even arrive. Now the attic is stocked enough to last us several years. As for the neighboring Marshall's family, they are still dreaming big dreams. I've been continuously brainwashing Sylvia and her sister, painting big pictures for them. Living in this kind of apartment is like being a lady of leisure. How could you possibly cook? I'll find a maid for you in a few days. Go out and eat in the meantime. If you need money, just let me know. So recently, they've been eating out lavishly, not even thinking about stockpiling. The fridge barely has a few vegetables, but a big appetite can make you hungry fast. I watched as Miles greeted several workers helping with several large boxes. I couldn't help but ask, what's all this? There's so much, some snacks, and stuff. Miles was sweating profusely. I offered him a wet wipe. Wipe your face. Unexpectedly, he bowed his head and even closed his eyes. I just wiped his face anyway, from this angle. I could clearly see his thick eyelashes, the delicate texture of his skin, and just a glimpse of his abs through his shirt collar. Stop, my face is burning hot. I hastily wiped and was about to leave, but Miles caught my hand, and this. Miles opened his eyes, his smile hinting at his neck. Oh, okay. I blushed and quickly finished with his neck, then ran off. Behind me, I could faintly hear his laughter. Then I started to regret. Why did I run? It's not like I'm at a loss. 14. Last day of the countdown, I was nestled on the couch watching the sunset outside the window. After tonight, it would be endless darkness. In these days, I've given as many hints about stockpiling as I could. As for the rest, everyone is only human. We can't all be Saint Mary. I only wish for the safety of those I care for. Serena, dinner's ready. Miles, wearing an apron, came out of the kitchen carrying a dish. Thank goodness for Miles. Without him, having plenty of supplies would be useless since neither my dad nor I can cook. The sweet and sour pork ribs smell delicious, I said with satisfaction. Let's have hot pot tomorrow. Okay, Miles never says no to me. Maxwell watched his daughter happily eating and chuckled affectionately at her, calling her a little glutton. It seems that everyone has grown accustomed to this kind of interaction. A joyful family atmosphere that I've never had before, but now, every day is filled with warmth. As if it has always been this way. Is it because of Miles' arrival? While we were enjoying our warm meal, boom, boom, suddenly, a series of loud bangs erupted from outside, and we all looked at each other before rushing to the window. What we saw were several bright fires on the street, caused by multiple cars colliding and burning. However, it was clear that the pedestrians on the street were not paying attention to the fire, even though it had begun to spread to residential areas. Instead, everyone was screaming and running in panic, chased by a horde of gruesome, disfigured zombies with intestines trailing, eyeballs protruding, and severely decayed faces. The zombies moved erratically but swiftly, occasionally catching and devouring the passers-by. Nearby shops quickly shut their doors, Ignoring the desperate cries for help as people banged on their doors, others broke into apartment buildings seeking refuge. Those who couldn't escape watched helplessly as the fierce, snarling zombies approached them. In no time, cries and curses mixed together, while the LED screens on commercial buildings continued to play various advertisements. These ads, which normally made the streets seem bustling, now seemed utterly ridiculous amidst the chaos. Inside the house was dead silent. A stark contrast to the continuous screams outside. Even though I had soundproofed the room, the desperate cries and hysterical screams were still deafening. The zombies moved quickly, and in less than an hour, the street was a scene of complete devastation, littered with bodies. Some of the bodies either got up to become the next zombies or never rose again. Dad and Miles had gone to the large balcony to check on other roads, while I didn't want to and dared not continue watching. If I hadn't been reborn, in my previous life, I would have been one of those corpses. The zombie attack is underway. These creatures are extremely sensitive to light and sound. Residents are advised to stay indoors and not go out. Research teams are doing their best to find a solution. We must stay strong and believe that we will soon get through this crisis. The TV continued to broadcast the news, and all the surviving citizens were trembling with fear inside their homes. But I knew that in a few days, when the news could no longer be broadcast, when water stopped running, and lights went out, the real test of survival would begin. We would have to venture out for supplies. Either we would be food for the zombies, or we would starve to death at home. Either way, there was no easy way out. Just thinking about the number of people who starved to death in my previous life was overwhelming. This sense of helplessness made me very sad. Today, it even started pouring rain, and the whole city swayed in the storm, making it hard to breathe. I lay listlessly on the sofa, not knowing when I had fallen asleep until I felt someone lift me up and a warm flow suddenly surged in my lower abdomen. The confusion instantly woke me up. I had remembered to buy thousands of things, but I had forgotten that I was still a woman. Miles, startled by the sudden tremble in his arms, asked, "What's wrong?" Desperately, I replied, "My period started." "I forgot. Wait a moment, I'll get you something." Miles immediately put me down and ran toward the attic. I hadn't even had the chance to say I forgot to buy, but Miles didn't come back empty-handed as I had thought he would. He returned with a large bag containing various sizes of sanitary pads. I was surprised. I thought I didn't buy any. I remembered. "That's enough. Go change." Miles acted as if it was the most natural thing in the world. When I came back after changing, I was still confused. "When did you buy them?" "Just the other day. Those big boxes." Miles's face flushed slightly with embarrassment. I nodded, outwardly calm as an old dog, but my eyes sparkled. This man, reliable. In the following days, I slept uneasily. I asked Miles and Dad more than once, "Did you hear any screams?" By the third time I asked with dark circles under my eyes, they were visibly worried. So, for the next few days, Miles and Dad did their best to cheer me up. But every time I closed my eyes, I was haunted by the horrific scenes from my death in my previous life. Thinking it over, some matters needed to be settled sooner. I turned on the computer proficiently and expressionlessly watched the 4 frightened faces of Marshall's family. There was an extra person, Marshall's wife, Vivian, whom I had never met in my previous life. I didn't know when she had been brought over, but she surely had timely luck. Having the whole family together saved me some trouble. It felt satisfying to watch you die. In my previous life, Vivian had abused me several times while I was pregnant. She appeared meek like a simple peasant woman, but she was the most poisonous. It wouldn't be long before you all paid the price for your wickedness. What are we going to do? Tessa collapsed to the ground. They had been going out and indulging in food every day. And now, with the zombie attack, they had not stored any food at all. "Mom, hurry up and keep looking. Why are you still standing there? Don't stop fetching water." On the table were a few slices of bread, half a box of milk, a half bag of rice in the corner, and 2 salted fish in the fridge. Marshall looked at these scant food supplies and became extremely agitated. Vivian pouted. She had been eating plain rice porridge and pickles in the old house, while these people in the apartment enjoyed fancy dishes. If it weren't for seeing Sylvia while fleeing yesterday, she might have been abandoned without knowing where to go. But now, even if she couldn't eat well, she still had to work. She should have stayed in the old house. The storage room had enough food for a long time. Vivian looked at the buckets filled with water in front of her, getting more and more upset. Sylvia had searched every cabinet, not sparing even the corners. They really didn't have much food left. "We're done for. Are we just going to starve to death?" Marshall paced back and forth. "Right, Serena, why haven't you asked her for a solution?" Vivian suddenly called out. Upon hearing this, Serena, in a desperate grasp for a lifeline, Marshall made a phone call. I simply responded, "How pitiful, but I'm barely surviving myself." Then, I blocked all contact information related to Marshall's family. "Hungry, go fight the zombies for food." It's been half a month since the zombies appeared. At first, Cries and screams were still heard occasionally. Now, the whole city has turned into a silent, dead city. As I expected, we lost electricity and water supply. Although our building still has a trickle of water left, it's manageable during the day, but at night, it's nearly impossible to see anything. Zombies move quickly in daylight, and without any means to light our way at night, those still breathing are nearly hopeless. Yet, in this city, a certain high-rise apartment is faintly glowing. Even with thick blackout curtains drawn, they can't block out the faint light piercing the pitch dark. Maxwell spent a long time by the floor-to-ceiling windows, making sure zombies couldn't reach up here. Thankfully, our apartment on the 36th floor is safe from the zombies who circle aimlessly below, hindered by blind spots. But Marshall's family's apartment directly across has no such blind spots. By now, Marshall's family had reached their wits' end. Not only was the power out, their water had stopped too. In the pitch-dark room, Sylvia clutched the last small bucket of water, wailing and refusing to let Vivian drink, despite her parched throat pleading for a sip. Marshall, already driven mad by hunger, yelled at both of them as he stumbled in the dark towards the window. Looking for a way out, he noticed the dim light from our apartment. They have power. Excited, Marshall began frantically waving and calling out. Hearing his shouts, the women inside stopped their bickering and joined him in calling towards our building. Unfortunately, we showed no response. Just when I thought they were about to give up, Marshall started banging on the glass even louder. Fine, let's see if I can show some mercy, I muttered indifferently as I casually drew back the curtain. Their expressions across the way were priceless. I waved the binoculars in my hand with glee, repeatedly enjoying the sight of Marshall's ever-changing face. What? Serena lives in that apartment? Marshall was in shock and fury. Tessa screamed, how does she have power? And how does she have so much food? That bitch is living well and claims she can't help. Sylvia was furious, pointing and cursing at our building. Yes, I had deliberately set up a small table with a snack cart. Lounging in a rocking chair, occasionally waving at them as if greeting dear friends. Serena, save us, please help us. Although Marshall was annoyed by my actions, they had no one else to turn to but me. Leisurely, I popped a candy into my mouth, thinking, not my problem. Their actions grew more desperate, and I felt Marshall and Sylvia might shatter their window from their banging. While I was thoroughly enjoying the spectacle, Miles suddenly came over and asked, why did you open the curtain? Startled, I almost choked on my candy. Miles hurriedly helped me catch my breath. What's going on? Naturally, he saw Marshall's family across. Marshall stared intensely at Miles, unable to believe that I had moved on so quickly and was living with someone else. Miles met Marshall's gaze with a cold challenge and casually draped a blanket over me, asking softly, are you cold? His touch was gentle. I shook my head, but the blanket was so plush that I buried my face into it instinctively. Marshall watched, furious and helpless, his anger quickly fading as their situation grew dire. Maybe we should beg her, Vivian suggested tremulously, driven by sheer hunger. Slap. Marshall slapped her across the face, shouting loudly, beg. How could I not think of begging? That bitch has blocked all my contacts. Now if I want to beg her, I'd either have to crawl through this glass, he pointed at the window, or go downstairs, dodge the zombies, and find her in her building. Tell me, which option do you choose? After days of hunger, even the most patient person would snap, let alone someone like Marshall. Marshall, growing angrier, swung his fist at Vivian, hitting her as she pleaded for mercy. Tessa, seeing that Sylvia had no intention of intervening, simply closed her eyes to rest, deciding to stay out of it. Meanwhile, I was sipping apple juice made by Miles, intrigued by the domestic violence unfolding across the way. Domestic violence is disgusting, but if it's against Vivian, then she had it coming. Still watching, it's already midnight, Miles said considerately, handing me a wet wipe to clean my hands. Do you think I'm cruel? I continued to face their building, but I could hear the man beside me sigh softly. I'm sorry, he said. Sorry for what? I asked, puzzled. For not being able to come back earlier, to protect you. And then, I melted. Tessa took the opportunity to kick Vivian several times, but ended up having her hair pulled by Vivian. Let go, you crazy woman. It seems that the people across aren't even going to be killed by zombies. They could kill each other with their infighting. They still have the energy to fight, Maxwell suddenly remarked. My hand holding the binoculars shook. When did he get here? Dad, you think you can hide your thoughts from your dad? Maxwell boasted, a hint of mischief in his tone for the first time. I also helped cut off their water supply. I wondered why our building still had water, but the one across had been cut off early. Cough cough, you don't need to know about that. Tell Miles later that Dad wants hot pot tonight. After watching for a while, Maxwell seemed to find his own chickens and ducks more amusing and left after giving a few instructions. I disagreed. Watching enemies fight was so entertaining. I even clapped to encourage them, provoking Marshall across the street to only slap the glass in frustration, so I clapped even more enthusiastically. Marshall watched the smiling woman across the building, his heart burning with anger, but still, a smile was plastered on his face. He waved a clumsily drawn card that read, "Save me." I was wrong. In the face of survival, pride meant nothing. I decisively captured the scene with my phone. Nothing else. I just hope that in the coming mundane days, I can fall asleep with a smile every night. Serena, come have some egg tarts. When Miles came out with a plate of egg tarts, the aura of a perfect domestic man seemed to hover over him. Other men might hoard snacks, instant noodles, gaming consoles, and necessities. He, on the other hand, had bought every possible kitchen and baking utensil. It looked like he was preparing to open a dessert shop amidst a zombie apocalypse. I watched him amusedly, but didn't slow down eating the delicious egg tarts. Being able to eat egg tarts at the end of the world felt like living a heavenly life. "Can you bake a cake?" "I want a chocolate cake," I said, thrilled by the dessert. Sure. Miles seemed in a good mood too. Then I forgot about the hot pot my father had asked for. That day, I was punished and wasn't allowed to watch the drama across the street. I cried. Finally, someone from across the street bravely took the first step. It was naturally Vivian. Only when she was pushed out the door did she wake up from her daze, desperately crying and banging on the door. Sadly, the person closing the door, Marshall, turned a deaf ear. "Did you say that was his wife?" Miles asked, puzzled by the scene. "What does being a wife matter? I was pushed out the door while pregnant too," I casually mentioned, only to see Miles staring at me intently, as if demanding an explanation. Why do I feel so afraid of him? I shrank my neck and stuttered through the story of my past life. I had previously spoken plainly about dying at the hands of zombies, omitting the part about the company's collapse and the downfall to Marshall's family. Now I just added that part. Miles listened intently, moving closer as I spoke. When I mentioned my father's death, our family's ruin, and my desperation, he hugged me tightly, repeatedly apologizing. I hadn't even gotten to the part about my cesarean. "Serena, don't cry. You have everything now." It was strange. Why was Miles suddenly comforting me not to cry? Was I crying? I was stunned, only then realizing that there were tears on my face. Was I unaware of my own tears, or unaware of my own sadness? Miles held me tighter, and I stayed silent, just quietly enjoying his unique scent. Only this could bring me peace. Filling the emptiness inside me, I hugged him back. It was the first time I initiated it. I noticed Miles stiffen instantly. The house was filled with gray blocks. Marshall's family could only hastily grab weapons and shakily face the battle. I watched these four people arguing about who should lead the charge. Inwardly, I calmly counted down. 3, 2, 1. As expected, when the zombie lord broke in, Vivian was pushed forward. Before Vivian could react, a bite immobilized her completely. Marshall's family seized the moment to run out the door, while poor Vivian's neck was torn apart, her head rolling to a stop beside a kettle. Under the moonlight, her face reflected a ghostly pallor, her lips dry and bluish-gray. The bloodthirsty zombie continued to feast on her body. Even though I was mentally prepared, I still shuddered. Wasn't I, in my past life, met with the same fate, forced out to find food, pushed forward as a shield during an escape? I watched as Marshall ran without looking back, an utterly tragic sight. It was heart-wrenchingly painful. Miles covered my eyes when Vivian was beheaded and quickly closed the curtains. Don't worry, he soothed in a tone like one would use with a child, making me laugh despite myself. To be precise, I had never stopped laughing since the beginning. I laughed until tears came. "Miles, brother." Miles paused for a moment, his eyes suddenly brightening. "You do this, and I won't be able to resist." My eyes were tearful, yet my hands wrapped around his neck. Miles was slightly stunned. "Resist what?" "Playing the big bad wolf." I patted Miles's face. "Resist kissing you." His eyes shone brightly with an excitement rarely seen. "Then don't resist." "Okay." Marshall's family of 3 disappeared without a trace for a day. Then, from our home's balcony fire escape, a series of noises emerged. Suddenly the cover was flung open, and Marshall climbed out. I was shocked and quickly called out loudly, but Marshall reacted faster, grabbing my hair and pressing a utility knife against my neck. By the time Miles and my father arrived, there were already marks of blood on my neck. Maxwell was shocked. "Marshall, what are you doing? Let go of my daughter." Miles was silent but kept inching closer. "I just want some food. Give me the food quickly. If you don't, I'll kill her." Marshall was desperate. Now like a dying beast, his grip tightened, causing searing pain on my scalp. I signaled my father to do as he said. Maxwell, with a worried face, went to fetch the food. Miles and I stood in a standoff with Marshall. Marshall, like he was delirious, kept cursing. The pain on top of my head was nearly splitting. His knife kept pressing closer. By the time my father came back, my neck had started to bleed. Miles kept negotiating with Marshall. My father went from being slightly calm to panicking. Their voices grew louder in their argument. Suddenly, Miles pulled out a small chainsaw that he had bought just in case. The loud noise startled Marshall, causing him to loosen his grip. My father took the opportunity to hit Marshall with a shovel. Miles quickly caught me as I fell. Marshall, unsteady, fell back into the fire escape. I watched the group tremble with anger, but after all, it was my own stupidity. I had forgotten to seal that fire escape, allowing them to slip into the basement garage and climb up to our building. When the entrance made noises again, I poured boiling water into the crack several times. The people below screamed in pain. After that, they couldn't come up anymore because we had directly welded and blocked the fire escape. Marshall's family finally resigned themselves and began to prepare to go out for supplies. Unfortunately, they were hungry, and so were the zombies. When Marshall finally pushed Tessa forward as a shield, Sylvia was frightened for the first time by her son, whom she had birthed and raised for over 20 years. When she pushed Vivian, she didn't think anything was wrong, but after pushing Tessa, who would be next, herself, Sylvia looked at Marshall trembling and felt utterly desolate. Unfortunately, Marshall had no time to ponder these things. What's wrong with wanting to survive? Marshall and his mother had been staying in that tobacco and liquor store for 2 weeks now, every day. I observed them through my binoculars from the window. When I saw Marshall again, he was covered in blood, filthy beyond recognition. Just as I wondered how he managed to survive so long without food, I saw him clutching half an arm in his hand. Then, I saw him surrounded by zombies again. This time, he had no chance to use me as a shield, nor was anyone there to take a blow for him. In the end, this selfish man was gutted and torn apart by the zombies, dying a gruesome death. It is now the second year of the zombie era. The nation has finally developed a scent that attracts zombies, drawing all the zombies in the city to the suburbs and deserted areas. There, they were obliterated with massive firepower. Rescue teams have gradually found surviving people and transported them to safe zones to be vaccinated and treated for injuries. We were no exception. When did it start? Maxwell, looking grim, watched me and Miles sitting neatly together. Unable to hide his anger, feeling guilty, I lowered my head. Miles, not wanting me to be uncomfortable, spoke first. "Uncle, I will be responsible for Serena." Maxwell's face turned livid. "You still dare to say that, Dad? Please don't be like this. You wait." Maxwell spat out harshly at Miles and stormed off. I couldn't help but chuckle. My father had changed a lot over these 2 years. "It's okay, Serena. I'll go and apologize to your uncle. Are you feeling unwell anywhere else?" Miles had been comforting me from the start, constantly trying to soothe me. "Yeah, I want some plum juice." "All right, I'll make it now." "Good." I placed my hands on my small belly, watching the man bustling in the kitchen. I remembered the scene when Miles first confessed to me. It was the first New Year after the apocalypse had begun. I was rummaging in the attic, trying to find some New Year decorations. Unexpectedly, I stumbled upon a large box that Miles had kept hidden. Curious, I opened it and found it filled with all my belongings. It turned out that Miles had written me letters every year. Thick stacks of paper silently spoke of their owner's longing. Who says longing has no sound? The longing was deafening. Numerous albums, each filled with my every grin and smile, along with photos of Miles and me, and those photos, covering all stages of my life from age 6 to 16. There were also small trinkets next to them, birthday gifts I had given to Miles every year. Each had a small tag attached. I picked up a small bare lamp, a gift I gave to Miles when I was in elementary school. The tag had the date from that year and a smiley face. As I touched these items, I couldn't help but burst into tears. Turning around, I found that Miles had been standing behind me for a while. He held a tray of fruits, his eyes gleaming with joy, reflecting only my image. It turned out I had always been loved. It turned out that every morning and evening were sweet, and I was bitten by a zombie, just half a bite. The zombie barely broke my skin before Peter, who was behind it, turned it into ashes. I cried loudly. Peter looked at me and consoled. "If you can still cry, the problem isn't too big." I cried even louder. 1.5 months after my parents went on a business trip, my childhood friend Peter suddenly banged on my front door. "It's the end of the world. Our parents have gone to save it." He was serious, but my mind was clear. I asked, "Are you sober?" He leaned against the doorframe, smiled, and his eyes curved like crescent moons. "To tell you the truth, I'm the reincarnation of Ultraman. Just give me 88 yuan, and I can save the world and you. I'm not playing games or talking about any new skins. The same old story." I pushed the door emotionlessly. He squeezed in before I could close it, taking a deep breath. "This time it's real. No new skins, too." As soon as he entered, he locked all the doors and windows and even turned off the lights. He said it was to prevent zombies from following the light. I had already thought about which hospital to take him to, but who knew? As we gamed into the night, zombies really gathered downstairs, because someone on the first floor who was up late cultivating immortality still had their lights on. Peter and I lay by the window, watching a group of zombies with white eyes and decaying skin gather below, continuously pounding on the windows. We heard a scream. Wow, staying up late brings hallucinations. How thrilling. Me. I turned to Peter, reincarnated Ultraman. Can this save us? I was a bit scared. My hands trembled as I clutched his sleeve. Peter glanced at his glow-in-the-dark watch. It's past 2 a.m. He must be at least a golden core cultivator. Don't worry, me. You should be over your Chinibu phase. Unexpectedly, the guy on the first floor was also a Chinibu, he shouted. Sword, come. In the dim streetlight, I saw the zombies suddenly collapse. A fork used for eating instant noodles was sticking out of their chests. My worldview was completely overturned, Peter said. I see, he's also a special abilities user. Also, Peter, do you believe in light? Before I could respond, a red light flashed in his palm, and he tossed a flame down. The zombies were instantly turned to ashes. 3. I felt unsettled inside. It seemed that I was the only one without special abilities. In a world overrun by zombies, I could only be a stumbling block for the protagonist. Peter stuffed something into my hand. Don't worry, this is yours. I looked down. A Balala the fairy's transformation device. I looked up at him expressionlessly. He was dead serious. You're Balala the fairy. You said so yourself. You said you wanted to save the world. And I even gave you 88 yuan for your trip back to the fairy castle, shooting oneself in the foot. I didn't want to speak. Peter raised an eyebrow. Try chanting the spell. I suppressed my embarrassment. I whispered, Balala power, Yukala Kaka, fairy transform. Nothing happened. Peter, ha 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 ha. I punched him hard. This damn man. Peter said, pack your things, we need to flee. I asked, do special abilities users need to flee? He said, you know about energy bars, right? Also, using skills has a cooldown. All right, he did have a point. I asked, where are we fleeing to? He spread his hands and said, I don't know, to the ends of the earth, I guess. Sounds romantic, doesn't it? Being chased by zombies to the ends of the earth. How romantic. I was picking through things, and Peter next to me was giving orders. Put that down, take the power bank. I can't go without my games. I clenched my fist. Why don't you carry it yourself? He shook his backpack. A clattering sound came from it. It's all in there, this gaming addiction, absolutely hopeless. Peter unlocked his phone. Let's play around in biohazard mode, gather some experience, go online. Me, aha, while playing, as I was picking up guns and ammunition, it suddenly hit me. Aren't we supposed to be stockpiling supplies for the apocalypse? While shooting, Peter calmly said, the moment I saw the first zombie outside my window, I knew it was too late. You love to eat. You must have stockpiled a lot, so I came here. Me, in the game, I angrily threw a grenade at him. We played until dawn. My stomach growled. Peter glanced over and asked, how much food do we have left? I replied, actually, I was planning to stock up this morning. Peter, we basked in an awkward silence, then silently agreed to start another round. When the day had fully brightened, Peter and I, with dark circles under our eyes, stood by the window. The streets were nearly empty, with just a few zombies moving sluggishly, aimlessly wandering below the apartment building as if at 0.5x speed. Peter grabbed a baseball bat. Let's go downstairs for breakfast. I picked up a clothes rod and followed him. He quickly and decisively opened the front door. With a clang, accompanied by the sound of something heavy falling, I stepped out, unexpectedly making eye contact with a zombie behind the door. It was squashed by Peter with the door. Its pale eyes were squeezed into pancake shapes, motionlessly staring at me. Its jaws opened. Damn, I was startled. The clothes rod in my hand instinctively stabbed into the zombie's mouth. This zombie seemed to have a pretty thin health bar, Peter said. Awesome, I replied. Of course, I'm the top Jiaoyan on the server, like a god descending into the valley with a shining silver spear, charging in and out 7 times. Peter finished it off. Cremation. Giving that unrecognizable zombie a dignified end. After dealing with one zombie, a sense of confidence emerged. Peter and I swaggered into the deserted supermarket. Before grabbing items, Peter said, don't go too far. I nodded. Just as I moved to the next aisle over from him, I turned the corner and made eye contact with another zombie, very close. I could even clearly see the blackheads on its decaying skin. Damn. Hesitation leads to defeat. My shot was delayed by just a second. I was bitten. I was stunned for a moment. That zombie had already been turned to ashes in Peter's fire. He came over, looking concerned at the fresh wound on me. I couldn't hold back. Tears surged forth. Peter was never great at comforting. Back in school, when I did poorly on a test, all he could say was, hey, although you didn't do well, you have a lot of room for improvement. This time, he looked at me and comforted, you can still cry. So it's probably not too bad. I cried even louder. After crying for about 15 minutes, I held a pile of snacks and staggered back home. Still sobbing, Peter collapsed onto the sofa and said, Login. Looking in the mirror, the bitten part of my skin had started to fester. I began to cry again. Peter just sighed, put down his phone, and came over to me. He examined the wound carefully and then said, "I've been a doctor in the canyon for years, trust me, it's not a big deal, he's just been playing the role of a doctor in games, he doesn't know a thing." Next, it was like the historical figures BNK and Duke One of Kai, he said. "Your Majesty is not ill," I replied. "My lord's ailment lies in the skin, if untreated, it will worsen." He massaged his temples and repeated, "Your Majesty is not ill," I said. "My lord's ailment lies in the stomach. If untreated, it will worsen," he replied. "It's been almost an hour. Look, other than that festering part, do you have any other issues?" I looked in the mirror again. "It's turned pale," he said. "Isn't this better than those whitening products you bought?" That seemed true when he put it that way. I calmed down for a while, sat down, and started a biohazard game mode with Peter, but the more I looked, the zombies in the game began to resemble me. Such a unique appearance. I enlarged the screen, looked at the strange features of that zombie, and joked, "Been single too long, even zombies seem handsome." Peter chuckled, "You've got a handsome guy sitting right next to you. Why don't you take a good look?" I glanced at him. His skin was pale and cold, with dark circles under his eyes giving him a somewhat decadent aura. His eyes drooped but twinkled with cunning light. "Don't you think green skin would be cooler?" Peter retorted. "Would you like it if you had this cool skin?" Looking at my hands, pale to the point of being almost cyan, my eyes welled up again. Peter said, "Let's pretend I didn't say anything just now." Okay, the zombies had almost no effect on Peter and me. Before the apocalypse, we were already home buddies, gaming intensely due to the strict control our parents had over us during our school days, leading to a form of retaliatory compensation in adulthood. After hanging out at home for a few days like old times, a sudden text message arrived on my phone. It instructed all survivors to gather before dark, providing an address. After a few days of mutations, the street zombies had upgraded to green skin. Even in daylight, they moved at twice the normal speed. Luckily, I still had a pale greenish hue. Peter was reliable in critical moments. Before setting out, Peter and I packed up 4 parcels of essentials, he said solemnly. "Some things need to be hidden." He looked at me. I stepped back. "Hidden where?" He pointed at my stomach. Eventually, I transformed from a vibrant 21-year-old girl into a pregnant woman. 7 months along, Peter went from a lean, decadent youth to a chubby guy with a beer belly. We went downstairs and saw Peter's car in the parking lot, now occupied by a zombie. The greenish zombie slowly turned its head and opened its mouth. I recognized her. She was the aunt from the next building who often gave away bunches of green onions when selling vegetables, but now, she was completely unrecognizable. Suddenly, I couldn't swing the clothes pole in my hand. I said, "Auntie, please move aside." She climbed down from the roof of the car, but since I had been bitten, she didn't come after me but chased after Peter instead. Peter was chased by a zombie ant, executing a nimble maneuver akin to a dance around a pillar. He finally found a chance to get on the vehicle. Peter and I scrambled into the car and quickly shut the door, but the zombie ant clung to the door, her face a ghastly green pressing against the window. Peter tapped on the window and said, "Auntie, it's dangerous." Perhaps the window was too slick for her grip, but eventually, she slid down slowly, feeling a bit sad. I asked Peter, "Can she ever turn back into a human?" Peter was silent for a moment before he slowly responded, "No, she can't." Peter drove me to a shelter where a survivor scrutinized us at the entrance. He looked at Peter and then at me. "Your wife?" "Yes." "Why is she so pale?" "She doesn't like the sun." "And why does she look a bit blue?" "She's only 21, still quite youthful." "And what about that red mark on her collarbone?" Without missing a beat, Peter replied, "I bit her." The survivor paused before asking, "Got any supplies?" Peter shook his backpack. 24 power banks. The survivor was puzzled. I lifted a canvas bag and some food. My food was handed over, while Peter's power banks were kept. Once inside the shelter, I realized there weren't as many people with special abilities as I had imagined. The only ones I knew were Peter, who could manipulate fire, and brother Silas, who attacked zombies with a noodle fork. The rest were armed with heavy-duty physical weaponry. Peter, ever adaptable, immediately found a sofa to slump on and said, "Let's log in." We opened our game only to realize the internet was down. Peter and brother Silas, who also couldn't play their game, exchanged a look filled with agony. Peter asked, "Bro, got any offline games?" Brother Silas replied, "Yes, how about we take turns playing?" "Sure." Despite others' anxiety and unrest, they seemed remarkably relaxed, even sharing gaming tips. At night, Peter and I were assigned to a small room because it wasn't big enough for more, and officially we were a couple. Which made things awkward. The room had only one bed. The floor space was so small that it couldn't fit Peter, who was over 8 meters tall. Since the age of 5, I hadn't shared a bed with Peter. Sharing a bed with Peter, I couldn't sleep at all. Turning over and over, I kept Peter from resting peacefully. He pressed down on my shoulder and said, "Can we just sleep?" Seeing his indifferent expression, I suddenly felt less awkward. I lay still, waiting for sleep to overcome me. In the middle of the night, I woke up feeling hungry. Peter was also awake. His face was close to mine, his dark pupils clear, reflecting an image of me in the moonlight. It was rather eerie. I whispered, "I'm hungry." He unwrapped a piece of bread he had stashed away. After eating, I realized it wasn't hunger but just a craving to chew on something. I stared at him. I think my pupils must have been turning green. Peter, feeling uneasy from my stare, said, "Even though I'm handsome, you don't have to look at me like that. It's making me uncomfortable," I said. "I feel like biting someone." He extended his hand to me. The blue veins and bones on the wrist were very visible. I said, "It's all bones, not a pleasant taste." Peter replied, "You're really picky." He handed me a teething biscuit meant for toddlers from the food stash. "Make do with this." Peter lay down and continued to sleep. I gnawed on the biscuit all night long, feeling more and more alert. Even started to feel like biting Peter. I suspected I was turning into a zombie. In the early morning, Peter was awakened by my crying. He rubbed his eyes groggily. "Did a zombie bite me to death?" I was puzzled. He sat up and said, "Why are you mourning so early in the morning?" After calming himself and taking another look at me, he sighed softly and said, "Go ahead and cry. I would cry too if I were you." His words startled me. I checked my reflection with a small mirror. I looked mostly the same as yesterday, except for dark circles from staying up all night. I asked, "What nonsense are you spouting?" He lazily said, "You were not the brightest before, and turning into a zombie, you've obviously lost even more brains. You don't look smart, that jerk." I was furious. My brain was suddenly dominated by the instincts of a half-zombie. I lunged at him and bit his shoulder. He inhaled sharply, then asked, "Does biting people make you feel better?" "Indeed, it did," I said, "but now everyone is a zombie." He maintained his nonchalant demeanor. "No big deal. You're half a zombie. I'm only a quarter." A sudden thought crossed my mind. If you bite someone half as much, does that make you 1/8 of a zombie? Going on like this, you could end up being 1/10,000th of a zombie. Almost unaffected but safe from other zombies' bites, Peter looked at me. "Are you using your teeth as a vaccine?" This morning, Peter unusually declined Brother Silas' invitation to play a game. Instead, he sat alone, pondering the feasibility of our new strategy. After a while, he waved at the bored Brother Silas. "Bro, can I bite you?" "Brother Silas, are you sick? I was a doctor before I lost my job. I can check you out," Peter said seriously. "No joke." They huddled together and discussed something I couldn't understand. The carefree Brother Silas gradually became more serious. Then he stretched out his hand. "Go ahead, bite." Peter hesitated as he looked at his plump hand. Brother Silas raised his eyebrows. "It's okay, just bite. I'm not afraid." Peter asked, "Bro, could you wash your hands first?" Brother Silas replied, "Oh, okay, no, there's 1/8 of a zombie." Peter and Brother Silas sat face to face. Peter asked, "Feel any different?" Brother Silas answered, "I feel sluggish." Peter just said, "Oh," then remarked, "That's just laziness." When talking to friends, Peter was always blunt. "Any other feelings?" "I feel like biting you." "Oh, that's just because I deserve it." Peter pointed at me. "Do you feel like biting her?" Brother Silas shook his head. "No." Peter noted in his memo, 1/8 zombie shows very few zombie traits. Brother Silas commented, "You're not being rigorous," he said. "There's no way. We don't have a lab." After biting Peter, my desire to bite people greatly diminished. However, I couldn't help but bite other things, like table legs. When I had gnawed the coffee table to the point of producing wood chips, a survivor noticed something was amiss and said to Peter, "What's with your wife?" Peter replied, "Pregnant women have strange cravings, don't you think, bro?" Brother Silas nodded. "When my wife was pregnant, she even wanted to chew on wall plaster, but she looks very pale," Peter said. "She's just malnourished," Brother Silas chimed in. "Yes, I'm a doctor. Nobody understands better than I do." The survivor wiped his sweat and glanced at the bite mark on Peter's shoulder. "But she started biting you," Peter retorted. "It's just a couples thing. What would you know, being single?" The survivor was hurt and shut up, but news travels fast in the shelter. The latest finding from the experts was that some people, after being bitten by zombies, retain their thoughts but exhibit some zombie-like traits. Given my previous bizarre behaviors, everyone started looking at me warily. Peter put his arm around my shoulders, and despite being nervous, tried to joke his way out of the topic. "Which expert? That doesn't sound very professional. My dad's an academician, and he says that's impossible," a survivor slowly said. "Academician Reed. Oh shoot, that's Peter's dad." Peter's smile froze for a moment. "Damn." Quickly, he pointed outside. "Look, the rescue team is here." While everyone turned to look, he grabbed me and ran outside. The survivors reacted quickly. Peter's actions confirmed that I was part zombie, and gunfire erupted behind us. Panicked, I ran, pulled by him, gunfire continuing behind us, but his steps never stopped. We ran to the car, where he finally stopped, took a breath, and said with a laugh, "Game over, we're going to be wanderers now." I examined him from head to toe. "You're not hurt, are you?" he replied. I'm fine. I have my brother Silas, who had apparently blocked all the bullets, muttered, Really, should I be under the car? Peter drove around the city until he found a place with a signal to call his dad. I found a way to not get bitten by zombies. His dad's weary voice suddenly became eager and excited. Let's hear it. Get bitten by a zombie first. Dial tone. His dad hung up. Peter looked at me helplessly. I dialed his dad's number on speakerphone. As soon as the call connected, a barrage of scolding came through. You rascal, do you not know your dad is busy? Once this is over, I'm coming home to spin you like a top. I whispered softly, Uncle, it's me. His tone softened immediately. Lily, what's up? Peter muttered under his breath. Double standards. I've been bitten by a zombie. I'm conscious but showing some zombie traits. There was a silence on the other end before he slowly asked, Did you bite anyone? Yes, your son? Professor Reed, Professor, are you all right? Where's the emergency heart pill? Peter and I looked at each other, speechless. Brother Silas exclaimed, with a son and daughter-in-law like you? Truly, it's a family misfortune. I was just explaining. Actually, we are not. Then the phone rang again. Reed's voice trembled. Are you guys okay now? Afraid of shocking him into fainting again, I blurted out everything in one breath. It's like we are normal people and Peter is 1/4 zombie who won't lose consciousness and bite people. We've found that those he bites won't get attacked by other zombies. He responded calmly. Okay, I got it. I continued. So, I think this could be a method, kind of like a vaccine, he said. If you have no other choice, give it a try. It can't get any worse. On the road, we encountered a group of people being chased by zombies. Peter, acting like a bandit leader, opened the car door, grabbed a megaphone, and shouted to the people ahead, Listen up, you can either be bitten by a zombie or by this handsome guy beside me who is, ugh, a dashing beauty. You've got only one choice. It sounded as if he had cornered everyone. Silas, the chubby yet charming monk, flicked his hair showing off his fangs, though it seemed unbelievable, but in desperate times, people tend to grasp at any potential lifeline. The crowd surged towards us, screaming, Bite me, eventually. Silas bit someone who looked relatively clean and tidy. This led to a spectacle of people biting each other. Without exception, those who were bitten were no longer approached by zombies. Silas, claiming to be a doctor, advised, if you meet strangers, bite them first. Recently, those biting each other have all been human. On the streets, the customary greeting has shifted from have you eaten to have you been bitten. Some survivors even specifically request to be bitten by those who were bitten by Silas because, it is universally agreed, 1/16 zombies look the best with just the right amount of paleness and a cool, aloof charm. This makes me, a half-zombie with a slight bluish tinge, a bit sad, but at least, everyone is fairly safe now. Zombies have become as common as stray cats and dogs on the streets. When Peter and I returned home, we found a greenish zombie at our door, its eyeballs nearly falling out. It turned them glippily, and its tiny nostrils sniffed desperately. It noticed nothing unusual, so it just leaned against our door. I said, Buddy, let me get into my house. The zombie groaned, but didn't move aside. Peter spread his hands, flames flickering from his palms. Move, or I'll burn you. The zombie might not be human, but Peter is truly fierce. That zombie scurried away, tumbling and crawling. I've noticed, after all this time, zombies seem to have evolved again. They even seem to be gaining some consciousness. I received another mass text on my phone. Professor Reed announced that the zombie vaccine has been tested on animals, but his experiments seem unable to keep up with the evolving zombies. One day, while I was out stocking up, a zombie spoke to me. You're not a real zombie. I took a bag of chips off the shelf. So what? He smiled sinisterly. I'm going to turn all of you into complete zombies. Then, he lunged at me with his mouth open. I pushed the shopping cart forward. It cut him perfectly, trapping his grotesquely elongated hand in the grid. Standing in front of him, imposingly, I said, Just so you know, I am Zhaoyin from Changshan, and if you dare mess around, I'll skewer you with my shiny silver spear and hang you on the ceiling fan, though. I wouldn't really dare to skewer a talking zombie, but who can't talk big? He was sullen and silent. A group of intelligent zombies made a comeback, disrupting the slowly recovering order of life once more. Peter's house was packed with people. He was usually too conspicuous, and everyone knew he had special abilities, so they all sought his refuge. He glanced at the crowd somewhat speechlessly. It's not like I want to be harsh, but what are you all afraid of, with so many of us here? Wouldn't it be easy to take down a few zombies? But, someone timidly interjected, that wouldn't be very sportsmanlike. Why go one-on-one when we can team up? Zombies usually moved in groups, which made them difficult to fend off. Peter retorted, You all panic over resources, even causing stampedes. Can't each of you just stomp them out? The spot in the community where people used to gather for dance exercises had been occupied by the smart zombies for 2 days, after Peter's remark. The aunties on the spot formed a Dance King squad and charged downstairs with their rolling pins. To the tune of the dance music, they chased the zombies away, who howled in dismay. "Hey, ever heard of respecting your elders? Young zombies these days have no manners," grumbled an elderly lady with salt and pepper curly hair. "First off, I'm not a hey, I'm a zombie. Second, you're morally blackmailing us," a zombie retorted defiantly. "Oh dear. The nerve of this young zombie. You're giving me a heart attack. Tsuehwa, quick, come help grandma." Tsuehwa, a feisty young girl, glared fiercely at the zombie. "You upset my grandma and think you can just walk away." A 116 zombie tried to mediate. "Is it really worth fussing over this? Let's all just take a step back." Both the full zombies and the 1% zombies cried in unison. "Whose side are you on?" The scene was utterly chaotic. Peter and I watched from the balcony, detachedly observing the mayhem, and couldn't help but exclaim, "What a spectacle!" A young, ambitious zombie was still waving his hands and shouting, "Destroy humanity, take over the world." He was abruptly kicked by a middle-aged female zombie behind him. "I tell you, even if zombies take over the world, you still have to study and take your exams." The young zombie's head drooped. "Oh, is that so? Then I'm not participating anymore. Bye guys." Order gradually stabilized amidst the chaos. Many office workers headed to work with faces as pale and haggard as zombies, apparently no different from their looks after a week of continuous overtime. The world was overrun with zombies, except for Peter's dad, who was isolated in a laboratory. When I heard the news, I was sitting on Peter's couch playing video games. Leaning next to me, Peter looked up and said, "I've got good news and bad news. Which one do you want to hear first?" I thought for a moment. "Start with the good news. My dad has developed a zombie vaccine, and the bad news, besides him being isolated in the lab, there's no one left outside. Who's he going to vaccinate?" I chuckled. Peter continued, "He fainted from high blood pressure on the spot and needs to come home to recover." I said, "I'm genuinely sorry to hear about your father's misfortune." No sooner had I spoken than my character Zhao Zilong launched a powerful move only to be beaten to death. Peter remarked, "I'm also very sorry for your unfortunate demise." Peter's dad came back, and my strong-willed parents remained in the lab, continuing their research on the zombie virus. As he walked in, the gleam off his bald head seemed to brighten the living room a bit. Seeing Peter and me gaming, Dr. Reed didn't scold him this time, but merely smiled and asked, "I hear you got married." Peter didn't even look up. "Just rumors," his dad replied. "No smoke without fire," Peter countered. "When 3 people say it, it becomes true," his dad shot back. "Have you been itching for a beating for months?" Before his hand could come down, Peter dodged back. "Can you save my face in front of Lily?" I stood up. With a knowing look, I walked to the door, opened it, and slipped into the hallway in one fluid motion, saying, "I'm leaving, Uncle. Go ahead and make the call." "Peter," I took a long stride out the door, and Peter followed, leaning against the wall. "You're quite heartless." I glanced down at my phone. "There's worse, Peter." I waved my phone in front of his eyes. "My mom says the lab is short-staffed, and since we're idle, we might as well help her with the experiments." Peter looked up and said, "Honestly, I have a soft spot for lab mice. It tears me up to see them captured, and I'm even more heartbroken when I see them bleed." "Oh, man, when he was doing the frog heart resuscitation experiment, he handled a bloody heart with tweezers without changing his expression. He was still in a good mood that evening, able to continue eating frog legs. I really wanted to knock some sense into his head. Speak plainly. I'm just 2 stars away from glory." I turned and walked away. "Then I'll go by myself." He followed me, leisurely strolling down the stairs. "Don't be like that. I was just joking. I'll definitely come with you." At the lab, I saw my mom in a white lab coat. Unlike Professor Reed's research direction, ever since discovering that some zombies could retain consciousness, she started studying how to eliminate the zombie virus from the human body. For the experiment, she brought back a zombie from the street, just like me. She was accidentally bitten, but she was well protected at the time and only had her skin broken. Now, she too was half a zombie. The saying goes, a family that isn't together isn't a family at all. A half-zombie with a pale green complexion held a test tube. It was quite a horrifying scene. My mom turned her head, sizing me up with too much white showing in her eyes, and said to my dad, "Look, our daughter still looks like me." My dad, Peter, was quite good at putting on a show in front of my parents. He changed from his usual careless demeanor to a humble and gentle one, saying, "Hello, Uncle, Aunt." Before my mom could speak, Peter naturally put on gloves. "Auntie, is there anything I need to do?" I suspected he was possessed, but I had no proof. The main force behind this research was still my parents. Peter was responsible for catching mice, and I was responsible for recording data. First, we had to inject the zombie virus into the lab mice. Peter looked at me. That look made me think that if it weren't against the rules of the experiment, he would have let me bite the mouse. After being injected with the virus, the mice became agitated. Peter, unfazed, held them by the neck and quickly dislocated their spines. The other mice couldn't escape the fate of spinal dislocation either. The zombie mice could only glare with red eyes, powerless and furious. As he injected different concentrations of the drug into the mice, he said to me, "It looks like you, me." "Looks like what about me?" "Like the way you look when you disapprove of me but can't beat me," I said. "Wait until I practice suturing. Also your mouth shut first." The progress of the experiment went surprisingly smoothly. The drug had a clear effect on the mice with minimal side effects, but my mom said, before it can be used, it must undergo human trials. Coincidentally, there were 3 people in the lab infected with the zombie virus. As I was about to step forward, Peter grabbed my wrist and pulled me back. He stepped forward. "I'm infected with 1/4 of the zombie virus. Let me do it," I said. "I'm half the test subject. I should give it a try now." Peter replied, "I have special abilities, so drug trials have no side effects on me." Peter has always been persuasive, able to brainwash anyone with just a few words. After weighing the pros and cons, we decided to have Peter undergo the drug trial, but without telling my parents or Peter. I secretly injected myself as well. One sample just isn't enough. Peter looked at me and asked, "Did you inject yourself with the drug?" I was startled, feeling the same nervousness I felt when I failed a history exam and got caught by my parents. Instinctively, I asked, "How did you know?" Peter laughed it off. "Because you've turned darker." I was speechless. "I guess it's time to order some skin whitening products." Peter wasn't as pale as before. His complexion had shifted from ghostly white to a sickly pallor. Peter drew several vials of my blood, claiming it was for science. I suspected he was settling personal scores. He tested those vials over and over until even the hormone levels were normal. Only then did he breathe a sigh of relief. "No issues. Do you feel uncomfortable anywhere?" I swung my legs as I sat on a high stool. "I don't feel like biting things. And my appetite is worse." "Does that count?" He frowned slightly. "A glutton who can't eat, that's a serious problem." I couldn't out-talk him, but I quietly picked up a needle and thread. He stepped back repeatedly. "Are you serious?" He lowered his voice, mimicking a male falsetto. "Would you really let such a beautiful voice disappear from the world?" Although his posed voice was magnetic and deep, I still scoffed. "Can't give him too much face." He stepped forward. "Is it a side effect of the medication?" "No. It's just your disgusting clip." Soon after returning from the lab, the zombie virus clearing drug was widely distributed. After the virus was cleared, the special abilities of the ability users also vanished suddenly. Monk Silas, tears streaming down his face, grasped Peter's hand and said, "I never imagined that today my spiritual roots would be destroyed." Peter bore the humiliation stoically. Fortunes rise and fall. Don't bully the young when they're down, such drama queens. It's said that zombies who retained their consciousness don't remember what they did while in zombie form after the virus is cleared. Hearing this, Peter asked me, "Do you remember what you did before?" I thought back and realized my memory was indeed blurry, unable to recall many details. I shook my head. "I don't remember clearly." Peter smiled mischievously. "You said I was handsome, and you wanted to marry me. You insisted that we were a married couple, known to all our neighbors," I replied. I said I don't remember clearly, not that I have amnesia. "Oh, then what part did I get wrong?" "Every part." He collapsed on the sofa. "What to do? You still don't want to be with me?" I was puzzled. He looked at me. "Why?" I wondered if I really had amnesia. "What was it that I didn't know?" He said, "I confessed to you once after the college entrance exam. I really have amnesia then. I drank that night." He asked, "What about now?" To be honest, I was a bit shy. Though he often speaks out of turn, he's reliable when it matters and treats me well. But my mom said, a girl needs to be reserved, not too quick to agree. I awkwardly said, "But baldness is hereditary. Peter's dad is bald, and he's likely to be bald too." This was the first time I successfully frustrated Peter, unexpectedly. My casual remark hit the mark, his face darkened, and he sat silently. My mom's advice on playing hard to get had been followed to the letter. I sat next to him, tugging at his sleeve. "Did I say something wrong?" He replied, "This is an open-ended question, no correct answer, but the suggested answer is I'm willing."